Top five, top five, top five.
Yeah, girl, you ready to do this? You ready to count this thing down? We're doing the top five, her. Yeah, let's set it off with 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Ranked Top 5 List of Stuff That Don't Matter. I'm your host, Tuong Law, and this is Hollywood, baby. We did it. We're back around the planet, the sun of Podcavern podcasts. And, you know, the Top 5 Movies podcast is the one that we started this whole entire journey with. So whenever we start to do a new one, it always feels like, oh, yeah, we're in it again. We're doing it again. And we have quite a film crew with us. With
Cast.
Yeah. Yes, a cast. Not just a film crew.
The cast.
We have a film crew recording us right now. A whole documentary that's going to be released on, I don't know, probably every streaming platform, probably.
I'll watch it.
Yeah? Okay, great. So the cast with us today, we have featuring big build top actor here, Taylor Fleming, with Alyssa Wooldridge and Laura Gordon. Is that how they do it? Like with and? I don't even know which is like, you know, when they have like a with Leonardo DiCaprio and whoever.
What about introducing?
That's a good one.
But you've all been here before. So
I love when a movie does it. It's like, and introducing Brad Pitt or something, like a huge name that they just tack that on.
I see what you did
funny
there.
Little joke.
We're back, movie crew. Same crew as last year. Really excited to get back into it. How are you all feeling about this year in movies?
Feeling full. Watched a lot of them.
We did watch a lot of them. Laura and I just came off of the video games podcast where I like binge a lot of video games for months on end. And then as soon as we stopped that one, the day after was like, all right, time for movies. And just like a month and a half of just, in the last 2 weeks alone, I think I watched like 2 to 3 movies a day.
Oh my God.
It was
That's
great.
a lot.
I think Taylor and
awesome.
Alyssa take the measured, aka smart approach of actually watching the movies as they're released throughout the year.
I do that too.
Whereas we're a little bit more like, oh, it's December. Let's get watching.
Hey, I'm a procrastinator by nature, so like I get it. I totally get
I
it.
understand. Thank
I
you.
like
I
knowing.
excel. I thrive under pressure.
Same.
Yeah, me too. That's why I'm watching 2 to 3 movies a day. I like watching, like knowing the, like once the award seasons come out, it's kind of like, what do they think the good movies are? And then from that metric, just kind of like pick and choose what I want to go and
I'm
do
the
next.
opposite. I don't like it clouding my judgment. I don't want to be like, don't tell me what's good.
Don't you tell me what to watch.
What I like.
Yeah, for sure. Alyssa, what about you? How are you feeling about movies in 2023?
There were a lot of movies I really liked this year. So it was a good year. Also, I can't judge for the procrastination because I was watching a movie this afternoon and people kept calling me to just like do a little weekend chat. And I was like, guys, I have T-3 hours.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
I'm fascinated that people call for weekend chats. I didn't know that people still did that in our world. That's great.
Oh, yeah. I love
Weekend
to
chats
talk
are
on the
alive and
phone.
well.
Oh, wow.
I'll add you to my list if you want.
I would love it. Not when I'm watching a movie, though.
Yeah, fair.
While we're recording this, it's the Lunar New Year weekend. So like when we went to Ottawa, we just got back like just a few hours ago. I'm just like, man, it's great to see family, but I could have used that time to watch 10 more movies. And that's where my
Instead,
head
we
is
watched
at.
their faces.
Yeah, exactly.
Wishing us Happy New Year.
But yeah, we're recording this a little bit early this year. While you listen to this, it would be like right on the cusp of Oscars. So we don't know what has won the best picture of the year, but whatever, you don't need to know that. Like our list is going to be definitely what you want to watch and what you want to look out for. But we are recording this on Super Bowl Sunday. But since you're listening to this in the future, how was the Super Bowl for you guys, Alyssa, Taylor? What did you think of it? What do you think of the game?
Honestly, I was riveted the entire time. Incredible. So happy that the Chiefs took home the win.
Oh my God. Taylor, what did you think about Usher's performance?
All I can say is, yeah.
Oh my God. Laura, what about
I
you?
enjoyed when the winning team celebrated.
You know how like Usher just pulls people on stage and like grinds up on them? I hope that's what he does like his entire set. And then
You
just
want
like,
that
"Thank
to
you."
happen?
From the stands. People from the stands.
Yeah, have you seen Usher with his shirt off? He's keeping it tight, baby.
I believe it.
Yeah. Usher couldn't pull it off, but Adam Levine can't pull it off. That's my hot take when he did the Super Bowl.
Well, he pulled it off anyways.
What, the
His shirt.
Yeah, his
Yep.
shirt.
He just went ahead and did it.
And yeah, this podcast is in the future, so that means, Taylor, you're married now.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Congratulations.
I
Most
am.
beautiful-
Thank you.
How's the wedding?
Yeah, how was the weather in
wedding?
Mexico?
Hot, sunny, I want to say. Yeah, great. It was a terrific time, and I'm glad.
You're glad about it. Yeah.
I'm glad about it. Yeah.
And which uncle got the drunkest?
Only one's coming down, so I'm looking at you, Dana.
Wow,
is.
wow. It was crazy when Usher showed up at Taylor's wedding and started grinding on him.
He just
but
got so caught up.
He owed me. He owed me.
Guys, again, when you said Taylor's wedding, I thought you meant Taylor Swift.
We're just programmed like that now. There's no other Taylor in the world. Sorry, Taylor Fleming.
I
At this point, maybe Taylor's engaged. We don't know. Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
This Taylor, definitely engaged.
You guys can just call me like Glenn or something if that's easier.
Shouldn't we call you by your middle name?
Is it Glenn?
Yeah, sure. No, it's Tim.
Whoa, Taylor Tim.
Yeah, Taylor Timothy Fleming, baby.
All right, let's get into the ground rules. Yeah, just really excited to talk about movies and finally unload all of my thoughts into this. But I think ground rules are very similar to every single year that we do movies. It's movies that came out in 2023.
Theatrical releases. I think we used like Oscar criteria last year.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily theatrical releases because there's things that come out on streaming now. So, but then there's like movies that came out maybe in 2022, but like officially released worldwide in 2023 kind of thing. I'm not sure how much we're going to get into that, but I think
We'll
we all
probably be
know
okay.
what the 2023 movies are. So as long as you can make like a somewhat of an argument to be like, that was definitely more of a 2023 movie than another year movie, then
Yeah, if it's wide release.
exactly, then I'm down with that. And it's like, yeah, any movie. It doesn't have to be just North American, could be foreign films, could be whatever.
Documentary, animation.
Yep.
Great.
Any other ground rules that we want to go through?
I feel like I just want to get this sorted before, because last time we got into the weeds. When we say top movie,
Oh,
what criteria are we taking into that? Because last time we were like, is it the best? Is it your favorite?
I think it's our favorite as a group, right? That's how it usually works with Ranked and the podcast is I don't think it's like, if it's not actually your favorite movie, then you don't have to nominate it. And then when we're like talking about it, whoever has the most passion usually wins out that type of argument.
So top is passion, essentially.
Yeah. And there could be crossovers between like what the Academy think is the best movie versus ours, but yeah.
Yeah, like I would say that there's some movies that are maybe more impressive or bigger accomplishments than some of my nominees that I have a lot of respect for these other movies, but I'm not going to nominate them
Scrappy
because they're
little
not my,
go-getter.
they're not my favorites.
Here's an example that I like to bring up is, was it last year or the year before? Alyssa, you nominated like a Sandra Bullock movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Lost City.
Lost City, which
Yeah.
is super fun. And a lot of people, let's say at the Academy, would just be like, pish posh, not that movie.
Fish push.
But Alyssa was so into it that I was like, yeah, you go for it. You
I still haven't
nominate
got
that.
over that sparkly. Was it a dress or a jumpsuit? I don't
Oh,
remember.
I know.
You know
I
the
dream
one.
of it.
Navala
purple
one year
jumpsuit.
nominated Dora the Explorer movie, I'm pretty sure. So
That movie was good.
apparently it was good. But yeah, I think that's what we're going to go for. Anything else that we
Awesome.
want to... Oh, for the audience at home, we will not be spoiling these movies in the first half of the discussion, but we will probably get into it if we need to in the second half. So be warned,
Yeah.
but we'll try to remind you again afterwards. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I just have one piece of housekeeping from last year.
Please.
I finally got around to seeing The Fablemans like a month after we watched it.
Oh.
And I fought for that one above Marcel the Shell, Laura, with you in particular. I am so sorry. I did not like The Fablemans, and I owe you
stand by
an
it.
apology.
I stand by it.
You know
I
what?
stand firm.
My main takeaway from the Fablemans was that cute little camera adjustment at the end. I thought that was a nice touch,
know.
and I still remember that. But was I thinking about Marcel the Shell, which she was on earlier today, and reminiscing over its beauty and thinking I need to watch it again?
I was thinking about that movie
soon?
today, too.
Absolutely.
It's because you
What a
threw up
charmer.
in the car.
What a charmer.
Do you know what? I'm not going to lie. This is more making me concerned about myself because I've never thought about that movie again. Am I emotionally okay?
No,
Marcel,
it's-
no, I haven't thought, except
okay.
for whenever I watched The Fablemans, and I was like, I need to apologize. I need to grovel to Laura because, like, I'm sorry. It did not.
I didn't
sorry,
hold
I'm
it
talking about
against you,
Fablemans.
Taylor, and there's no need to apologize.
That's
But
funny.
I'm glad that you agree with me, though.
Shall we get into it?
I would love to.
Just like every episode of Ranked, we're going to go around 3 times, nominating 3 nominations each, making a master list of 12, and whittling that down to a top 5 movies of 2023 list. Oh, okay. By the way, audience, this is the first year that I'm trying to really commit to Letterboxd. Not because I think I'm a great writer. It's mostly because I always forget what movies I watch, and I need to write my quick thoughts down. And I've found it very helpful to really like get my brain around like, oh yes, this movie. And that movie that I'm about to talk about is Godzilla -1.
Oh,
It's my first nomination. And I'm sorry to Laura because
that's the one movie I didn't see on the list.
So, audience at home, what this group does is we make like a list of movies that we've seen, not always necessarily our favorites. Most of them are like ones that we like to a degree. And then we anonymously star ones that are like, you should probably watch this one just so we can like talk about it. It's always the weird thing when it's like someone nominates a thing and you're like, I haven't seen it. But that's going to happen eventually. And Laura, the entire like the last month or so, she's like, Godzilla -1. I should probably go see that. And here I am like in the corner being like, God damn it, go see it right now.
And that's the one about the giant monkey, right?
That's it. Yeah. The one that's like stealing women and on top of buildings. Yeah, exactly. Godzilla. Like Godzilla has had a hell of a year and a half or so, Taylor? You think like Monarch. There was like a Shin Godzilla movie like a year before that.
That was a few years ago.
Was it? Okay. Godzilla versus Kong. The new one's coming out. Godzilla, that guy's working. They're putting him to work in Hollywood. And Godzilla -1, I'll tell this audience at home that like I am not that big of a Godzilla fan. And that could be surprising because I love kaiju stuff. I love like the anime type of thing that Godzilla brings into movies. But yeah, I just don't know. I just never really sought out Godzilla films. And yet this one in particular, people were buzzing about it on the internet. They were just like, you got to go see Godzilla -1. You got to go see it. It made a fuck ton of money. I'm so happy for them on a very small budget. Like there was like $10 to $15 million, which is incredible for what they pulled off. And they were able to tell this story in a way that was like, it's a human story, which I always like find difficult in some iterations of other like monster movies and stuff like that. It's like, if it's a Godzilla movie, it should be about Godzilla. But in this movie, it's about someone who's going through, let's just say, a lot of trauma and trying to work through it. It's like a real historical event with a bombing. And that's where this is taking place, this story. And then Godzilla as another threat that's kind of like piling on to like the shit that's already been going on in the country and things like that. So the way that they use Godzilla in this film is very powerful because he's not there all the time. He's just showing up at the right time. Best way to describe it is Jaws, where Jaws isn't shown all the time. And when Jaws shows up, it's like, oh, wow, Jaws is here. And that's how I felt about Godzilla -1, where you're like, you really care about these human characters. And then when Godzilla shows up, it's like, oh, fuck. How are they going to take him down? What are they going to do? Taylor, Alyssa, did you end up getting to see it?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't. It only played here for a week, so I missed my window. But I read up on it to be prepared, and it sounds incredible.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Taylor, you're the only other one who saw it. What did you think?
It absolutely ripped. I don't know how much you want to get into it now, but like I feel like we should save it for later. But I have lots to say about it. I loved it.
Intriguing.
It was really good.
Yeah, we'll move on for now. Keep things moving. Taylor, what do you got as your first nomination?
All right. For my first nomination, I think I'm going to go with my second pick. I'm going to save my number one because I feel like I know. I know it's going to come up. I'm just going to jump to my number 2 of the year. I'm going to go with Alexander Payne's The Holdovers.
Yeah.
Did you guys all see that?
Yes, sir.
It was so lovely. It's just like, for those who don't know, it's set in 1970 during the winter around Christmas break, and it's at a New England all-boys private school. And then the holdovers, the titular holdovers, are just the kids who don't go home for Christmas break. And curmudgeonly old professor, played by Paul Giamatti, has to stick around with the kids. And it's just them and a lunch lady, played by Divine Joy Randolph. And then the lead character, Dominic Sessa. I've never seen him before.
It's his first role.
Divine, I know.
Oh, really?
Sorry?
I think it's his first role.
Oh, is it? Holy smokes.
I heard
swinging.
This is all. I'm sorry, Taylor, to cut you off. This is something that I heard from somebody else who knows a lot about movies, and I'm sorry if I got this wrong because I did not fact check it. But I think it was one of those situations where they went to schools to like trying to find like the right actors, and they found this guy, and this is just his first role ever. So
yeah, it is. I just looked him up.
And he's so good. He's so good.
He was so. Everybody in this movie really shined. Yeah. Divine, I only know from, she's the police officer in Only Murders in the Building, right? That's what I know her from.
All three of us.
Right?
And
Yeah.
I got to say, she corrected the audience recently at an awards show. It's her name is Davine.
Oh, Davine.
Davine. So just throw that in there.
Love that. Yeah, everybody just fantastic, like powerhouse performances. And then the movie itself, it was just like, it was a very warm, sweet, it was a Christmas movie, but just like so well done. It was one of those movies that Payne just nailed that like 1970s aesthetic.
Oh,
It's
yeah. Even the editing.
feel like-
and like,
Yeah, exactly. The crossfades and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's just like a lot of people attempt those things. Like Ty West's The House of the Devil is like another great example. Those are the two movies that I can think that I'm like, this actually feels like it came out. If Greta Gerwig didn't pop up or Paul Giamatti didn't pop up in those movies respectively, like you would think it was from the 1970s. And it's just like they nailed it. It was so wholesome. It was I don't know. You felt good. It was a tearjerker, but in the best way. And I just loved it. I was blown away. Like Christmas movies, for me, I think Christmas movies are one of those genres that we all kind of like grade on a curve. It's like, like an airplane movie. It's always better. Like Christmas movies, a lot of Christmas movies are pretty crappy, but they get a pass because it's a Christmas movie. But like this was just like, it was a good movie that was set at Christmas. Like it blew the doors down. It was great.
I agree entirely.
If I had to
Love that
describe
movie.
this movie in one word, it would be cozy. It was just like a
100%.
really cozy movie.
Like fireside, right? Like that kind of like crackling, like
When it ended, I was like, I want to live in this movie for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, the vibes are just right. And then Paul Giamatti, like him specifically, I'm just like, holy fuck. He like when he won the Globes and then I watched the movie afterwards, I'm like, I see why he did, because he just plays crotchety
I love
drunk
watching
very
Paul
well.
Giamatti, yeah.
And it's really, really good. Alyssa, what about you for your first nomination?
Okay, I might be taking Taylor's number one.
I hope you do.
I'm wondering if this is on everyone's list, but everyone knows I love a romance movie. And I feel like they are starting to pump out romance movies like never before, especially when you think about like the Hallmark movies, the rom-com is coming back. So when you see a romance movie where you kind of feel like you've never seen it before, it's like the most special thing on earth. And for me, Past Lives did that 1,000,000%. So it's a movie about this girl who immigrates to Canada with her family when she's 12, but she leaves behind her country, her culture, and also her friends, including this boy who she has a crush on. And the movie follows them. They meet again 12 years later and again 12 years later. And it's kind of just an exploration of looking at your life and thinking, if I would have done this, would my life be different? And this really becomes like kind of a love triangle between her husband and this former childhood crush. And it's just a really wonderful love story. And I think it's just super relatable to every single person on earth, and definitely one of my all-time favorite movies of 2023.
Ooh, boy.
Nice.
I remember, Laura, you can speak to this. Laura was watching this on
Watch it on an airplane.
On a plane when we went
Airplane
to the Dominican earlier a few months ago. And I was just like, Past Lives. And I looked at the cover. I'm like, this looks like one of those movies that, I don't know what I was like, putting on like my movie critic hat based on a poster. And I'm just like, this looks like a movie that's like, nobody's heard of this movie before. What is this movie? It's just there because of whatever. And they're just trying to fill up the film screen on the airplane entertainment. And then I heard,
You're a dummy.
I'm a dummy.
Did you slap him in front of everyone?
No, we weren't
Oh,
seated
God.
together, so I couldn't actually.
Yeah.
You were seated together, and then he said that. And you
Yeah,
moved.
exactly. I moved seats.
No, I think instead I was playing like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom like on the Switch on the plane. So I definitely wasn't paying attention, but I did end up watching it a
Yes,
few
I
weeks
did tell
ago.
you should check it out.
And I also loved it. And I also loved, for, and not to get into it too much, but I did like the subverting the expectations of where this story ends up. And we won't spoil the ending, at least right now, or anything like that. But I thought it's just far more mature than I thought this story would go, because lots of romances end with a very pretty bow, rom-com specifically. And I won't even call this a rom-com. This is just a romance movie. So it definitely surprised me in many ways.
Yeah. I also won't talk about it too much, but I think one theme that I noticed among some of my favorite movies from this year is that, like, no matter how big the world is that our characters are existing in, like, it's a, cross intercontinental story, but it feels like such a small story that has like such big meaning to it. And I think that's kind of similar to the holdovers as well. And that's something that I particularly loved about it. But
Yeah.
we'll talk more later, I'm sure.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say about it, while it's top of mind, is this is not a surprise to some people who've listened to this podcast, but I've become more of a, let's say, a mark or a target for popular movies that like get into the mainstream where like a lot of the main characters speak their like Korean or like Asian, whatever Asian language they're speaking. I'm just like, hell yeah, you go get it. And I just love seeing those movies succeed. And for a reason too, like this movie's more than just that, but like I was just like, yeah, go for it. Like a lot of the movie, maybe 50%, 60% is spoken in Korean. So that's pretty cool. Laura.
Okay, I've been waiting to talk about this for months because there was a movie that I saw this year that had a really big, really unexpected impact on me. It changed the way I look at the world. It changed the way I look at movies, at like the world around me, at life. And it gave me like really a whole new level of appreciation for great film because this movie was so bad and it was called Ferrari. And
that's not the nomination.
I found it like scarring how bad it was, and it kind of like took a little bit of life out of me, and I thought I'd never enjoy another movie again after I saw it. But I was committed to this podcast and I knew that I had to keep going.
For the listeners at home, Laura got
Push
really
through.
into F1 this specifically in 2023, so she was very excited for Ferrari.
And I don't want to talk about that movie anymore, but I will later if you want to. At one point I left the theater. I went back in, but I went to the bathroom just to hang out for a while after the big crash.
Oh yeah, understandable.
I was like, I don't want to watch this anymore, but my friends are still inside, so I did. But anyways, I knew that I had to keep watching the movies, so I thought it was very brave of me to go back to the theater. I didn't think I was going to like this movie that I went back for. I didn't have like positive emotions going in, didn't really know what I was getting into. But Poor Things really brought me back to life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it had imagination, it had creativity, it had hope, it had everything that Ferrari lacked. And I feel like I was Emma Stone, discovering that apple. It was great.
Did Willem Dafoe bring you back to life specifically?
In some ways, I would say more so Yorgos Lanthimos, but William Dafoe gets a little bit of credit. Yeah. So that's my first nomination.
Willem.
What did I say?
William?
I'm so sorry, Willem. I'm sorry, Willem.
Poor Things. Yeah, what did you guys think about Poor Things?
I loved it.
I am actually very excited to get into a discussion about Poor Things because I loved every single element of it. For some reason, the whole thing, I enjoyed it, but I feel like I don't love it as much as everybody else did. And I'm very excited to hear you guys talk about it.
Me too.
Because honestly, I was like, am I too dumb for this movie? Like, why isn't it not resonating with me? But in terms of technicality and Emma Stone's performance, absolutely blown away.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think I'm with you, Alyssa. I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually. But I also feel like I might be missing something where some people love it. And I'm not sure if I'm there yet, but I'm very excited to hear. I didn't even think this was your favorite movie of the year.
That's because I'm like a poker player.
What do they call poker
I
players?
have a good poker face. I have a good...
A poker?
Usually whatever their name is.
Pokeroos?
No,
they don't call each
it's
other
not that.
pokeroos.
I'm scared of him.
That's great. I also liked Ruffalo's performance, even though I know it's super goofy and kind of silly. I don't know.
Perfect.
It's perfect for
So
that
funny.
kind of thing. I don't
He
know.
was so funny.
It's so good. It's so good. All right. Shall we get into round 2 then?
Yeah, let's.
Okay, round 2. So my number 2 and 3 movie have been taken for my favorite movies of the year now. I gotta save my number 1 because I think it'll still come up. So I'm gonna go into my number 4, which is my favorite animated movie of the year. I'm a big sucker for animation movies. I thought one movie was a surefire thing to be my number 1 animated movie of the year. But this one took me by surprise by the legendary animator Miyazaki. And from Studio Ghibli, Boy and the Heron is my next nomination here. And I fucking loved it. I love Ghibli films. I've seen basically most of them now. And the thing I like about Miyazaki films is that it is always more than what it seems. And it's always the layers and the themes that they go into are worth multiple watch throughs. And the way that things are animated and the way that they portray certain things, and I don't know how to describe it besides this movie, the creativity level is exactly what you'd expect out of a Studio Ghibli film where you're seeing things in animation you've never seen before, but they always end up bringing it back to it's a very human element no matter how far kind of crazy it gets, and sometimes honestly confusing. You're like, wait, what's actually happening here? Which is why I think it deserves multiple watch throughs. But I thought this movie was incredible, and this movie was supposed to be his last movie. In fact, he came out of retirement to make this movie, and then he said, "This is my last movie." And then like a few weeks later, after he made this movie, he's just like, wait a second, I might do more. But this movie in particular felt like a love letter to all of the movies he's made in the past. So if this was actually his last movie, it would have been a great button on all of the things, because it combines at least my favorite elements of all of my favorite Ghibli films, like Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke. It has all those elements of like a protagonist who's strong and strong-willed, but there's like something underneath that they need to expose and learn about themselves. This movie in particular deals a lot with healing and grief. And at the very beginning of this movie, this boy's mother dies from a bombing, and he ends up getting adopted by a new mother, and the adventure unfolds where he gets transported to a new world from a very scary looking heron played by Robert Pattinson in the English dub version. And the English voice cast for Miyazaki films I always think is incredible. If you hear the Robert Pattinson heron voice, it's unrecognizable that it's him. So I think he knocked it out of the park, and Florence Pugh and Willem Dafoe are in this movie too. But yeah,
it's William.
William Dafoe's Bill. It's Bill Dafoe.
So you watched the English dub?
Yes, I watched the English dub.
Cool.
I would have watched whatever, but it was the English dub was the one that was playing at the theater at the time.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And I thought the music and the score was just beautiful. I thought it was just really good. I think the main thing that took away from the movie, at least in the beginning, was that Laura would not enjoy parts of this movie because she has a fear of birds.
Or ornithophobia. It's a real thing, and it's a common thing.
I'm not making fun.
It's the invisible string that ties us together.
Yeah.
And this movie starts with some pretty fucking scary bird animation that you're like, this is going to scare some people. But yeah, I thought the whole movie as a whole, it's beautiful. It goes through so many twists and turns, and just visually just blew my mind. So I loved it. Boy and the Heron. Alyssa, Taylor, Laura, did you see this?
The theaters of Prince Edward Island did not bring this movie here. So
Yeah, I didn't see. I watched every Hayao Miyazaki movie this year, but I've yet to see Boy and the Heron.
My review for it was not bad considering all the birds. But I did genuinely enjoy it. There were 3 points where I covered my eyes, but for me, like, just despite the fear I had going in, I found that the story was quite engrossing. And I will say that sometimes I have a hard time getting into Miyazaki films. Like, my eyes just like can't handle the style of animation and kind of like the gaps between frames and stuff. So it took me a while to get into it, but I think it's probably like my favorite of the half dozen or so Miyazaki films that I've seen. And I really liked some of like the themes of legacy and family that were woven throughout it. The visuals, of course, and the score. Stunning.
Yeah, agreed. Taylor, what do you have as your second nomination?
Sweet. Okay. I think for my second nomination, I'm going to go for one of the more recent movies I saw because it finally came to streaming. I'm going to go with Cord Jefferson's American Fiction.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So good. So funny. Have you guys seen?
Just saw it.
Yeah, just in the past week.
It was so funny. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be that much of an outright comedy, but I mean, like, it was, again, like, I'm just repeating myself, but it was so funny. But then I also wasn't expecting like all the family emotion and drama, and that for me, like, I love comedy with a bit of heart. Like, that's why I'm always like, I like Parks and Rec more than The Office, because it's like you get the laughs, but there's also so much heart with that. In this movie, like, it just when something marries those things and does it as well as this movie did, I was enwrapped. I loved it. Jeffrey Wright, best thing I've ever seen him do, and he's a really good actor. Like, he kills everything he's in this. Literally within the first 2 minutes, I was like, oh, he's acting. Like, he is killing it, and it was so funny. It was not quite a satire, but like, it was so scathing, just like its commentary on the world that we live in right now. And it was just, I was howling laughing, like slapping my knees watching it. And I had high hopes, and it blew them away. So I was just super pleasantly surprised.
Cool. Alyssa, you're nodding. You've seen this movie as well?
Yeah, loved it. And I also like couldn't believe how much I was laughing. But I mean, I'm an easy crier, but I cried multiple times too. So I loved that. I was like, this movie really had me on a roller coaster of emotions, which is my favorite thing. So I could not get over how funny this movie was.
Yeah, once I figured out like what the plot was when he sits down with his editor and you kind of like see where the story's going, I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And was so excited to like kind of figure out that piece and for what was to come.
Yeah. And for me, like I didn't watch the trailer before. I just heard the premise was like, yeah, let's go. It sounds great. And then I watched it. This is what I often do is I watch a trailer after I watch a movie. I'm like, how are they selling it? And I would have expected a movie like this. So like the plot is that Monk, played by Jeffrey Wright, he's a college professor and he's written multiple novels, but he hasn't written anything in a while. And he's just, they're not buying his manuscripts. They're not selling. And then he writes what he thinks is like the most broad baseline,
low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
quote unquote, like the Black American story. And it's just, it's poorly written and he does it as a goof and then that sells and people are just gobbling it up and they're making a movie about it. And it's just like, it's his best selling book ever. So he has to, and he pretended, like the whole shtick is that he has to pretend that he is an ex-felon who's on the run from the FBI. So he puts on this persona. What was his name? Stag Lee?
Yes.
Stag Arlie.
Yeah.
And yeah, so in doing that, like he kind of puts on like a, hey man, what, you know, he puts on a gruff because he's a very well-spoken, whatever, he's talking to his publisher and they're like, I'd like to speak to Stag Arlie. He's like, this is he. And she's like, I'm sorry. And then his publisher's like, he does like a hand. He's like, you know, like do a more street. And he's like, okay. But those moments where he's acting like Stag Arlie, they're few and far between. It's like less than 5 minutes of the whole movie. I feel like a lesser movie, you could have done this like Joanna Man or something, you know? It's like it could have been really big and over the top. And it's like, okay, this is kind of running
That's a good point.
a little thin. He could have gone to a restaurant and then run into like his girlfriend that's there. And he's, you know, it's that thing. It's like when you need to go to the birthday party and the wrestling match and you're going back and forth and then you show up wearing the costume to the wrong thing. They could have done something like that, but that's not what it was about. It was more just kind of like pointing and like, this is pretty ridiculous, right? And focusing on the family drama in his love life. And it was so good. Also, Jeffrey Wright, Tracee Ellis Ross, Issa Rae, Sterling K. Brown, like murderer's row of talent, and everybody came to play.
Except not enough Keith David. That's my one complaint of the movie. Is like
I saw his name for opening credits.
Opening credits. I'm like, Keith David's in this movie.
Goliath?
Exactly. And then you see Keith David. I'm like, yes, more of this. But it's that one scene, but it's pretty fucking great.
That one scene where he's writing the book, I thought that was so cleverly done.
Yeah.
Just how Jeffrey was in the room, Monk was in the room, like writing the book, and then it was playing out in front of him, and then they would say a bad line, Keith David and whoever he was acting, Ray, or maybe that was his first book.
It's Okiri Oken. Oh, I can't remember his name, but the guy who played Hercules Mulligan in Hamilton.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okiri something.
Over my head. But yeah, it was just like they would read a bad line and then they'd look to him and they'd be like, really? That's what you want us to say? He's like, well, what would you like me to say? And it's just kind of like workshopping with his characters, but in like physical space. It was super clever. Yeah. And there was like sound effects of like the ghetto, you know, there'd be like siren stuff in the background. And then every time they'd be like, man, that's bullshit. And then like those sound effects would just cut out. And they'd have their conversation and then it would come back in whenever they're like back into the scene. It was super clever.
Yeah, very smart.
And I loved it. Also, any movie that takes place in like New England area, Massachusetts, it always reminds me of home. And like it took place in a little like seaside town, and I'm like, oh, that looks like PEI. So
cute.
I love that.
When they're like spreading the ashes and then they're like swearing at the white neighbor. It's like, you have a permit for that? Fuck you.
Fuck you, Ned. You've always been a fucking douchebag.
Yeah, this movie came out of nowhere for me, and I knew Jeffrey Wright was in it, and I saw the poster of it, and that was it. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know anything about it. And when I went to the theaters, it was just like, it just felt so good to come out of the theater and be like, yeah, like I love going into a movie blind like that, knowing that like a lot of people loved it, but like, why do they love it? Because Jeffrey Wright usually takes on quite serious roles. So to see him in a movie that's, you know, it has a lot to say. Of course, it's like a very topical movie about like, you know, what, let's just say like the white audience think of the Black experience,
what they want
to hear and stuff like that. And then it's just like, well, that's not the like stories I want to be
trauma porn.
Exactly.
It's like the Black experience is just suffering. And they're like, no, we're so much more than that.
Exactly.
So that's what the book that Monk writes is, because he lowers himself.
I've been saying the line, I thought it was so clever, be like, Jeffrey Wright can do no wrong. And then I was telling that to somebody. Yeah, I know. I could do better. I could be like more Monk-like and write a better log line than that. But anyways, I was telling that to some people and they're like, Jeffrey Wright, who's that? And then I'm just like, oh man, nobody knows who Jeffrey Wright is. And that's a shame to me. Yeah.
It was me. I didn't know who Jeffrey Wright was.
No, I knew. But you never saw any of his stuff. But like, I would say, like, I think he's super popular, I guess. But I guess he's not, like, to the mainstream audience.
I didn't know who he was either.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like he first popped up on my radars, the newest, like, Felix Leiter in the James Bond movies. And then he was Westworld, of course. You know, he's the engineer that kind of
Boardwalk Empire.
I forgot
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that show.
Anyways, American Fiction, great movie. Alyssa, what do you got as your second nomination?
I think for my second one, I'm going to pick a movie. It's long. It's heartbreaking. It's made by one of our biggest TikTok stars. It's Killers of the Flower Moon.
Nice.
Hell
Is
yeah.
it him or is it his daughter who's the TikTok star?
Well, I think, unfortunately for her, he's the
Yeah,
star,
true.
even though she's putting in the work.
Yeah, you're right.
And you know what?
100%.
Thank you, Francesca. You're giving us the content we want.
For sure.
But for me, I think when I think of movies that I really love, movies that like make an impact on me and I think about constantly are kind of the ones that tend to make the list. And this movie like floored me. And I hate long movies. I've always said I don't think movies need to be more than 3 hours long. This movie, I was riveted the whole time, and I saw it again a week later, which is like
Wow.
unhinged.
Wow.
Wait, in
know.
theaters? Like not
Yeah.
even looking at your phone or taking breaks.
Isn't that wild?
Wow.
I
Can't
know, and
imagine.
I just think it's such a heartbreaking story, but it's so beautifully told and it's so compelling, and it's made by one of our greatest living directors. So for me, I think like when you look at a lot of other people's top movies of the year, this is kind of there, but it's not like up at the top. But for me, it was definitely up at the top because it just like it really made me just think about even the way I look at unjust situations and kind of, I'm sure we'll get into this in the second part of the podcast, but the ending of that movie really made me think too, just about like our relationship with crime and again, unjust situations and kind of the part that we all play in that. So that is my number 2.
Laura Taylor, did you watch Killers of the Flower Moon?
I did.
I freaking loved it. It was incredible. It's definitely one of my top of the year. Scorsese's still pumping out masterpieces at like 80 is it's unheard of.
Insanity. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I do have one like fairly major criticism of the film that I'll hold on to for now because it might be controversial. But same as Alyssa, I've been thinking about it so much since watching it just a couple of weeks ago. And I feel like it's one of the movies this year that's really stuck with me a lot more than others. And despite the length and having to watch it over 3 sittings, I did think it was a great movie and wouldn't close the door on watching it again. Whereas
Yeah.
a lot of long movies, I'm like, never again.
Same.
I'm pretty much in
Three
for
and a half.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, I'm pretty much in for a lot of Scorsese movies. I think he kind of started losing me at Irishman because that was like also 3.5 hour movie.
That was literally his
That
last
was-
movie, though.
Yeah, I know.
Unnecessarily long.
That's what I mean. Like he started losing me there. So I was like, everything was great. Then he started losing me. So that's why as Killers of the Flower Moon, I had to like reset expectations a little bit because I'm like, this is another long movie that he's putting out. And his last movie did not do it for me. Like it was just like so, oh God, I have so much to say about that movie, but it's not this year.
Sucked.
I love the Marty cameo though. Very cute.
But this movie, here's my confession. I'm like a Leo slut. So like anything Leo's in, his personal life aside and his dating life aside, like him as an actor always compels me. Just the way he commits to roles, I'm just always in. And pairing him with De Niro and stuff like that. And
Finally.
Yeah, finally.
Finally.
It's crazy that this is the first time.
They did a short movie in like 2016 with Brad Pitt about
Yes.
a casino in like Singapore.
I saw that. Yeah.
De Niro
that's
wasn't
it.
in The Departed. I thought everybody was
Nope.
in that.
Jack Nicholson.
All right.
And Lily Gladstone too. She was also really
Phenomenal.
Good. Yeah, really good. Okay, let's go to Laura.
Oh my gosh, it's me. Okay. Debating between 2 for my next nomination, but I think I'm going to go with this one. So let's talk about comedies that star women. And I feel like there was sort of a renaissance of this that started with Bridesmaids, I don't know, like a decade ago now. And there's been a lot of movies that have been made sort of in the same, like with similar themes to that, where a lot of the time, in order to be kind of edgy, they put like grossness first, like the bridesmaid dress scene where they all get violent diarrhea and they're vomiting and stuff, or like in Pitch Perfect where they're like, I feel like there's a scene in there where they're throwing up on each other while they're performing or something.
It's like the opening. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just sort of like, okay, that's like, I kind of get what they're doing there, and that like these are sort of seen as like male humor, that they're trying to like, oh, like women can do this too, this is funny, da da da, but it's not my favorite thing. And I feel like this movie really took a really fun turn and did something that was unexpected and something that you're used to seeing men do in films, but not used to seeing women do in films. And that was like just exerting violence upon each other. And that movie was Bottoms. And for me, putting the violence first really made it feel fresh and exciting and so silly and fun. And I found that was what I was really going for in movies this year, was movies that made me laugh, showed me a good time. And for me, Bottoms was it.
Yeah, I'm glad I watched it. I think you were pushing me to watch it for a little bit. I actually saw you watching it last night before bed too. So I'm like, oh, Laura's definitely going to be talking about this. Yeah, I was surprised. And like just taking the Fight Club thing and putting a little bit of a spin on it, I think was just a wonderful thing. And like, I'm just a big fan of AO right now. AO? Yeah, she's great. And everyone is great in that movie too.
I'm very happy to be living in a world where Rachel Sennett and I think I always say IO, but AO are making movies. This wasn't like my favorite of the year, but I had so much fun watching it.
It's fun.
I hope they make a million more movies. I will see every single one. Very funny. Very funny.
The way it's very cartoonish too, like the way they portray like the whole
surrealist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the whole, and I won't spoil too much, but like the football players are just, they're cartoon characters in that movie, and the way they're just played up, it's just very satisfying when they get like punched in the face, for example, right?
This movie was one of my most anticipated. It was my most anticipated comedy of the year, and honestly, it really disappointed me because I didn't think it was that funny. It just like the humor didn't connect, like the seriousness with the surrealism just didn't quite mesh. It felt like it was just a little out of step for me. Like there were some good parts, and also it's like it's Fight Club also meets American Pie, which is like a classic teen comedy sex thing, which is always men trying to lose their virginity, right? They just flipped that with the girls, so that was great. And yeah, it just kind of, it didn't quite work for me. Great performances, like Sennett and Adebury, unreal. Marshawn Lynch, really funny. They're so good. But it just, I don't know. I thought you were going to go with a theater camp, another Adebury picture. But like this one just didn't quite land for me. And I was really looking forward to it. So maybe I like kind of hyped it up in my head. I was waiting, and then I was kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Whereas for me, it came out of nowhere. And I haven't seen American Pie. And I haven't seen Fight Club. Yeah.
Honestly, failure is not the 1990s. Give it a pass. You don't need to.
We don't live in the era where men are just like, you haven't seen Fight Club? You got to watch Fight Club right now. Right now. That's what we're doing tonight.
And this is one that, like, I watched it alone. It made me laugh out loud. I think I really appreciated the silliness of it. Like, and for some reason, I keep like classifying it in my head as a zombie movie. There are no zombies in this movie, but it really feels like a zombie movie to me. And I keep coming back to it.
What does that mean? Don't just skirt.
We'll get into it later, Taylor.
Ending?
Okay.
A little bit of the ending, but going back to like the surrealism aspect that you identified earlier was, it was just like, this is. Like, as the movie progressed, you're more and more like, this could never happen, but it does, and it's delightful.
To me, it was very watchable, and I just had a fun time with it. I guess we're going to round 3, the final round of nominations.
Whoa.
This is crazy. This is nuts. I guess I'll be nominating this movie, which I did not want to be the one who nominates this movie. I've been trying to save it, but this is my number one for sure. But I did not want to be the one who says this. My number one of the movie is the biggest pop cultural event of the entire year. I had the most fun. It's Barbie. And the reason why I didn't want to do that is because it feels weird for a Ken to be nominating Barbie. So like there's a huge Barbie fervor over the summer when it came out. And like the marketing for this movie was just A+++. Like never have I seen a movie as successful at marketing itself and like getting out there than Barbie. And the whole Barbenheimer thing was just like a flash in the pan, lightning in a bottle type of situation. Laura and I saw both of those movies on the same day, opening day, and we dressed up for both of those things back to back. We started with the other one, which I guess is Oppenheimer. He's saying other movies. And then we went to the car. We had like 20 minutes to change, and then we were in Barbie outfits. And Laura like spent weeks preparing this event for us in like, she was thrifting.
I had a vision.
It was just incredible. So like this Barbie means more to me than the movie itself. it was just one of the coolest, if not the best movie experience that I had, because the people who were showing up for Barbenheimer, it was like movie magic. It was like, oh my God, this can still happen in the theaters again. You know, we're past the pandemic era of where like maybe movies and theaters are dead. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are like, oh, the pandemic is the death of movies. Maybe everything's just going to be streaming. Nobody's going to want to go to the movie theaters anymore. But this goes to show that people are looking for the exciting movies to go to the theater, something that is like a communal experience. So seeing Barbie specifically in the theaters, in a room full of people who really, really wanted to see Barbie, and all of the laughs that were supposed to hit were hitting at the exact right moments for everybody. So we're all like laughing at the same time, feeling at the same time. It was just a giant smile. But for me, like Greta Gerwig so far has done no wrong. Like her movies have all been some of my favorite movies. She's right now one of my favorite directors that are on the scene right now. And the way that she balances such a, you know, a property that's like, it's Barbie. Like, what could they do with this property? Like, there's nothing to it. It's just Barbie, right? But what they do with it is, it reminds me of the Lego movie in the way that they took this thing that's super popular and then they gave it a story that gives it a human element to it, that grounds it, makes it funny, and makes it relatable. And Ryan Gosling's performance in Barbie really fucking kills me. Anytime he's talking as Ken, I'm just dead. Margot Robbie's fantastic too. So time passes, super hot on Barbie, and then a lot of people are also hot on Barbie. I actually ended up like filming a Barbie thing for work where I was playing a Ken. Like Barbie was really in 2023. And then time passed and I was like, okay, now that enough time has passed and we're away from all of that, do I still like Barbie, or did I only like the experience of going to Barbie? So Laura and I watched it at home just like a month ago or so. And it just kind of reaffirmed that I'm like, no, I actually really love this movie. I think it's just, if we're just talking about a fun, not just fun, it combines the humor and heart thing that Taylor likes in his taste of movies. And for me, this movie hit all the right notes. The comedy was fresh. The heart was fresh to me. Pretty much everything worked for me. There's like a few spots that I could probably nitpick about, but just as a singular movie experience, one of the biggest things of the year, it has to be Barbie for me.
Barbie!
Laura?
Yeah, you stole my last nomination. So that's on you, bud. But in summary, I thought this movie was funny. I thought it was thoughtful. I thought it was full of heart, and it was a damn good time. And I think like it also gave audiences permission to really celebrate movies in a way that like we haven't in a long time, if ever. Like the idea of dressing up to go to a movie, I feel like most of the time people would be looking at you like, what are you doing? But I think this and one other movie this year.
Like Wonder Woman and Black Panther didn't happen?
Well, I
saw you in your
people.
kente cloth at the theaters.
I do remember one guy dressing up for Black Panther, and his outfit was fucking amazing. Do you remember that? But overshadowed by the drunk guy in the back of the theater. But anyways, I think it was like just a different level than what we've ever seen before, or what we've like personally engaged in before. And for me, that made it like such a highlight of the year, totally. Film-wise or otherwise.
And also just like visually, I've never seen a movie just look like that. I mean, of course, it's like very pretty, it's very vibrant, and the sets are just very Barbie-like. But honestly, I just never seen a movie like that on the screen, on the big screen before. Alyssa,
I feel. What are my thoughts on Barbie? First, I think my first thought on Barbie is when you said it's like a big smile. I couldn't agree with that more. That movie is a big smile. It's so much fun. And I 100% agree with like just the way it took over the world. I think that speaks for itself in terms of just like what an important place it has in the roster this year. Do I think it's like the number one best movie? No. Was it one of my favorite times at the theater? Yeah. And I think it absolutely deserves to be celebrated for like being such a massive success, which is great. I definitely have some issues with like some of the structure, and like I don't think it's a perfect movie.
No.
But you can't describe it better than a big smile.
Yeah. There's just a lot of silly happening in the movie, and I like silly. Taylor.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was a good movie. We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it.
We'll get into like the debate section.
For sure. Absolutely. How about we get into Taylor's next nomination, your final one?
I didn't have like a hard list. I'm just kind of like feeling out the room and seeing what people are picking. But you know what? Since you did Barbie, why don't I toss Oppenheimer in just for, it's not exactly a smile and a warm like Barbie, but in terms of like the other half of that summer was
you
Oppenheimer.
can't not have Oppenheimer. It has to be in the discussion.
Yeah. Also, like, it took over the world, but also I think it's like just an incredible movie. Like, I do love Chris Nolan, and he has his issues, writing women. That is it plagues all of his movies. But this movie, it does not escape that either. But this and like The Social Network are two of my favorite biopics that I've ever seen. I just think it was incredible. The structure of it, the way he adapted that American Prometheus book, incredible feat that he did that and made it. It's 3 hours long, speaking of long ass movies. And it's essentially just people talking in rooms, but the way that it just like moved at such a fast clip, I was like, the fact that it was so goddamn watchable is kind of a testament to how good of a job that he did. And the cast, Barbie's cast is insane. The Oppenheimer cast is equally like it's when you have like Gary Oldman popping in for like a 2-minute scene and getting to like chew the scenery, be a villain again, because like Gary Oldman used to be like the best villains, like Sid and Nancy, fucking Dracula, True Romance. Like, not since the Book of Eli. That's the last time I can remember him being a villain. And then, like, he plays the president in this, and he's just an asshole. And I'm like, okay, Gary, I didn't even know you were in this picture. But, like, just things like that. There's so many things that happen.
The cameo thing, yeah, there's so many cameos. But the one that always it just took me back for a second was like, is that Josh Peck? That was the one that made it.
Like, you need a guy to press a button. You get Josh Peck.
For me, it was, is that the guy who played Jack's kid on Will and Grace? So good.
I don't even know who that is.
I don't know the name of the actor. Michael something. But so many like faces that are you recognize from super niche roles. I think that actually made the movie delightful because you didn't know who was going to pop up next.
He feels like a Spielberg or a Scorsese, where it's like, any actors will just like, I'll take a walk-on role just to be in one of your movies. Yeah. But yeah, it was awesome. It's one of those movies too where it's like they don't deify Oppenheimer in ways like you don't come out of the movie, you're like, what a great guy. You'd be like, wait, was that guy like a piece of shit? And like he's so he's like self-hating in the movie, and he's just like reflecting on what he's done. And yeah, people are like, I don't know why we're doing a movie about Oppenheimer. Like, he wasn't a good guy. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the point of the movie. But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting. That and Killers of the Flower Moon, like 3 hours each, and have like 45-minute court scenes at the end, which is kind of funny that just kind of like happened twice in this year. But two of my favorite for sure. So.
Yeah,
true.
When I think about like moments in like sitting in a movie theater this year where I'm like, 2023, what movies did I watch? The number one moment I think of is like the test bomb in Oppenheimer. My heart was just, and like again, for a movie that's like kind of a courtroom drama in some points. The fact that I was sitting there and I was like, am I having heart palpitations? That's pretty impressive.
It's the sound design in that movie that really elevates it, right? Like the bomb itself is like, yeah, that's the thing that I remember the most is that scene and just the sound. And they talk a lot about Chris Nolan, I don't know, a lot of practical effects that are going on, but shot in a way that's like he's trying to like avoid CG where he could, right? So I'm not sure if I completely saw all those shots that were like practical versus CG. I'm not smart enough to see the difference all the time, but I appreciate that Chris Nolan is just like that kind of guy who just loves movies so much. He's like, I'm just going to do it this way because that's the way I want to make movies. Yeah, I thought it was great. Who else? Alyssa.
I'm glad that Taylor said Oppenheimer because I was like, someone's going to have to say it. But since you said it, I get to pick my fun one.
Get it.
Which was already brought up, and it's Theater Camp. That is the most fun movie of the year for me. I watched parts of it again today, and I was like dying laughing. I think the writing is so good. It's also like a spiritual descendant of Wet Hot American Summer, which is one of my favorite movies.
Yes.
I love a summer camp movie. I wish I was Molly Gordon. I'm like, I would literally give anything to have her brain. I think she's so funny. The songs are so fun. Biggest snub for best original song, in my opinion. Yeah, so I think that's going to be my final nomination, Theater Camp.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
So fun.
Yeah, I think my experience with this film, I think was similar to Taylor's experience with Bottoms, where I had such high expectations going in that it was never going to live up to them. But I did really enjoy it. I thought, for me, I think it was like the editing in this film, just like the quick cuts behind the scenes, it just had me in stitches in a few parts. But it also, like after seeing the movie, I kind of just like forgot about it. And that's
Really?
was the weakness
That's
for me.
kind of that's where I'm at too with it, but I enjoyed my time with it as well.
Yeah.
I think the thing that like resonated with me is like I'm a theater kid at heart too, so like seeing those people doing the like very theater kid type shit delights me and tickles my funny bone in a lot of ways. I'm like, oh, that's just fun. And it always makes me think, I'm like, do non-artsy people look at this film and they don't like it? 'Cause it's
Just
just a
not
bunch
get
of
it.
weirdos.
So,
yeah.
no disrespect. Theater kids are like the bane of my existence. I just cannot. Like, it's that energy. Like a theater kid comes in and you're just like, holy, like without
Too much.
even you've
Yeah.
never met them before, but you're like, that's a theater kid right there. I just can't. Like the Energizer bunnies on crack. But this movie is made by everyone who clearly are theater kids, and they're in on the joke. They're like, aren't we obnoxious? And you're like, yeah. And like, that's what made it so funny, because it's like they can poke fun at themselves as well. They'll be like, yeah, we do this, don't we? What a beautiful morning. So funny. Now, so like someone who's like, that would be like the worst thing to send me to that camp. Like you would be taking me out in a body bag, because I would just like go. And seeing the movie, like the way that they did it, I thought was just like so funny. Like they just skewered themselves, because like who can make fun of them better than themselves?
Yeah.
Like, they know
Sure.
all the ins and outs. So just answer your question, I am that person, and I thought it really worked.
Oh,
Maybe
that's
it worked better
Because of that, maybe, yeah. I don't know.
Or like the two theater kids that like it didn't really hit with, but like then Alyssa, you didn't do theater either, did you?
No.
So like,
I wonder if there's something to that. Like, if you're in the world, like you're already living it. I don't know. But for me, like there's a line where they're like, the kids are auditioning or something, and she looks at him, or he says to her, he's like, I just don't buy her as a prostitute. And she's like, hey, miss. And he goes, sorry, sex worker.
funny.
I was
That's a
laughing
great
so
line.
hard, I had to pause the movie. I was like, this is the funniest thing.
Yeah, it made me like Ben Platt again, because
Me too.
'cause I
I
was-
find him kind of annoying.
I only knew him from that movie, and I was like, I just like steered clear of that guy. What's that? What's the movie?
Dear
he did?
Evan
Just
Hansen.
Dear
like-
Evan Hansen.
Yeah, I hated
Yeah, and then he's
that
like
movie.
35 and he's playing like
Laura
a
and
high
I
schooler. So I was
listened
like,
to that
this guy's a
musical.
clown.
A
We were
zillion
obsessed
times.
with that
We were obsessed
musical
with
when it came out. When he was like 18 years old and it came
When
out.
he- yeah.
Yeah. And then we listened to like his album, and I really liked that too.
His first album is a banger.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
then the movie version of Dear Evan Hansen came out, and I'm like, ooh,
Oh.
yikes, and it made me like, I don't think I want to see him in anything.
It also didn't
anymore.
help that his dad was a producer on it.
Yeah. But then this movie came out, and I'm like, oh, this is the type of shit he should be
So
doing.
funny.
Yeah,
So funny.
Yeah.
so good.
What's the name of his partner? Is it
Noah Galvin.
husband, fiance? Yeah,
fiance.
him. Steph and I used to watch the show The Real O'Neills. Don't know if anyone ever watched that. It was an incredible sitcom. Martha Plimpton played his mom. Enough said. But
I don't know
yeah,
who that is. I'm sorry.
She's funny.
Give me,
I
give me-
think you
give me
would know her
something.
if you
I
saw
gotta
her.
go.
Give me something. Tell me.
Goonies.
I can picture
I
her,
don't
but I
watch
don't know what
Goonies.
she's from.
Raising Hope.
Nope. Oh, I know that show, but I've never seen it.
Okay. You got to educate yourself in the Plimpton world, man.
Yeah, okay.
But no. So whenever he popped up in like Booksmart, I just know him from Real O'Neills, because I don't know his theater stuff. And then he popped up in Booksmart, and just like whenever he's doing karaoke at one point, he's like singing, and he's like la 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 shh to someone who's sitting off the corner. And I always loved him. Didn't know he was in this movie, so whenever he popped up and has a huge role, I was like, let's go.
I'm just going to drop in the fact that Noah Galvin took over the role of Evan Hansen after Ben Platt played it, and then they fell in love.
And you said,
okay, we
and
love
the dude in
that.
No
Yeah.
Hard Feelings. You told me this factoid, and the dude from No Hard Feelings. With
Yeah,
opposite
Andrew
Jennifer
Blythe
Lawrence?
Feldman. He also played Evan Hansen, and Jordan Fisher.
There you go.
There's a
See,
whole
Laura's
host of them.
educating me in the theater world, and I appreciate it.
Look at this, little by little.
Laura, educate us with your final
Okay,
nomination
this
here.
is tough because I've basically ranked my movies into tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and everything else, and my tiers 1 and 2 are gone.
Wow.
I think we're killing it. I
So
think
we're
doing
yeah
good.
we're
a good
venturing
list.
Doing
into,
well.
into tier 3 here, and I sort of debating between two movies. One of them I know, one of them has been nominated. One of them I know that Tuong will make fun of me if I nominate it.
Whoa,
and the
whoa,
other
whoa,
two I'm
whoa.
debating
You
between.
shouldn't care about that.
No, it's I don't
Make
think
fun
anyone
of you.
I don't think anyone else has seen it. And it's same tier as this one. So I'm gonna go with one that I think most of you have seen and has a special place in my heart because of the location in which the movie is set, and that movie is
I know what
Blackberry.
Waterloo.
What?
I'm a vampire of Waterloo.
Okay.
Okay, I'm very
That
happy.
we gotta talk about that line,
Yeah.
because I feel like the filmmaker like read that about Waterloo and interpreted it as like, oh, it's this like this legend about the city of Waterloo that everyone knows. No one had ever heard that before. Like, this is not a thing in this city.
It was a meme. It was
Yeah,
like a
yeah, that's
there
what
was
I
like
thought.
a
After
fan
the
on
movie, right?
No,
interview.
it was before the movie.
Before the movie.
Yeah.
Never heard of that. Never heard of
That's what
that
I heard
before.
too.
But anyways, I gotta make a plug. My friend James is in this movie. I did not know he was in this movie. And so when I was watching it, I was like, that's James. He plays the character in the beginning who's supposed to present the financial documentation at a meeting. And then Jim Balsillie like steals the floor from him. Poor James. But that delighted me. The fact that it's set in Waterloo and Mike Lazaridis and the other people who make the film are former students of the University of Waterloo where I work. And I served Mike Lazaridis gelato once, and it just made me, and it was right around the time that like the final, so it would have been like 2008 that I served him gelato in Uptown Waterloo. And that was like right around the time when they were having all the drama at the end of the movie. And I just remember thinking, you can have all the money in the world, but if we run out of gelato, you're not getting gelato. So, because
what I'm hearing is, Laura, you're basically in this movie.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
You basically inspired.
I forgot the really important part of the story where he leaned over the counter to me and said, "Are you guys going to run out?" And then he was worried that we were going to run out of gelato before he got served.
I like how everything that you've talked about this movie has nothing to do with the movie
Okay.
and more about
like I thought it was funny, it was fast paced, it didn't take itself too seriously, but also like in some ways it kind of felt like a student project film, like let's just make a movie, like get some silly wigs and stuff. But something I really liked about this movie, going back to what I said at the beginning, was like these smaller scale, like these stories that feel really small and intimate, but like if you think about it, like this is actually a huge story within the context of like the world of business and that sort of thing. But it just felt really like intimate and easy to process and to follow, and something that you were really like connected to as you were watching through it. So that's my pitch for Blackberry.
I have some things to say. One of them is the place that I work at right now. Apparently that building, they went in, the Blackberry people, and they're like, can we shoot a scene in here? And that scene got deleted from the movie.
Wow.
But it was a point of pride for them. They're like, hey, these movie studio execs, apparently they came like the day of. They're like, hey, we're coming around filming scenes. Can we go into your office and do it? And it was a whole rush of like, oh, we need approval from this and this person. And like, well, if you don't get approval in the next hour, we're not shooting the scene here. And that's movie business for you, baby.
That's no permits for you, baby.
I also really enjoyed this film. It's just extremely watchable and fun. And the other thing is like, I am always rooting for Glenn Howerton as an actor to succeed.
He's so
and
good.
his like yelling is very reminiscent of how he yells in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with his character Dennis. And it's just I don't know, it cracks me up every time. And this is another just one of the most fun movies that I've seen. I'm not sure how like historically correct it is. Like some people from BlackBerry that I've talked, like ex-BlackBerry employees, are like, well, it didn't go exactly like this or that, but you know, whatever. And I'm like, that doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
It's still fun for me to watch it. Yeah. Alyssa, Taylor.
I feel like this is a very recommendable movie. Like lots of times people are like, oh, what should I watch? And I'm like, have you seen Blackberry yet? It's like a very safe bet because like probably no one's going to regret their time with this movie. Like the performances are fun. It's like a good run time. I had a fun time. Yeah. It's funny, Laura, that you said it like kind of looks like a student film. Did you guys know that CBC was playing this movie hour by hour every week?
No way.
So they divided the movie. They divided the movie into 3 and they played it like when we were kids, like on Sunday nights.
That's
so they
hilarious.
played part 1 on Sunday. Then the next Sunday they played part 2. Anyways, my uncle like didn't want to rent the movie. So he
watched it over 3 Sundays.
But when the movie starts, it does kind of look like it's not a real movie.
Yeah.
So he was sending it to people like, guys, watch Blackberry. And people were turning it on and they were like, I think this is something else. This doesn't look like a real movie. But then you get into it and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. But again, my uncle, mid-50s, loved it.
Nice.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good movie for dads or uncles.
I thought it was great. I know like Matthew Johnson, the co-lead, not Glenn Howerton or Jay Baruchel, the other dude. I know him from his movie The Dirties. I don't know if anyone's seen it. It's even more of like independent. But he's fantastic in that, another Canadian one. But yeah, this movie, I mentioned, like, when I mentioned Oppenheimer, I brought up Social Networks, one of my favorite biopics. I bring up Social Network again because I feel like since the Social Network happened, a lot of movies have tried to, like, do that again. Even things like say Moneyball or something. I don't know. That's not the best example, but and lately like IP is almost like the new superhero or brands. Excuse me, brands are like the new IP that like Hollywood is trying to market. It's like let's do a Cheetos movie.
Yeah.
Let's do Tetris. Let's do
Air.
What else came out this Air? Like there's just a bunch of shit like that. And then BlackBerry. I think since The Social Network, BlackBerry is the successor to The Crown. I think no other movies have done as good of a job with like this type of story as BlackBerry. And BlackBerry is almost like the antithesis to Social Network. Like it doesn't have a Trent Reznor score. It doesn't have David Fincher shooting, like you said, it looks like a student film, but it just like that spirit is there. It's like they're like soul sisters to me. This one's really funny, extremely watchable, and yeah, had a great time. I always love to see Jay Baruchel. He's like what Glenn Howerton is to you, Jay Baruchel. I'm a popular mechanics kid. What can I say? So
now he has gray hair.
We hope you kill it, man. Keep doing it.
The wig, though, so
that
good.
wig. Oh my god.
Oh my god. I mean, the bald head too is pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, that's our list of 12. Holy shit. My God. How about we take a quick break? We'll start a fight club in the meantime. And whoever comes out of that fight club can rank the rest of this list into top 5. How's that sound?
Yep.
Okay.
Who wants to take me on first?
Ready.
Okay.
Wait a minute. In that movie, didn't they start a fight club to have sex with each other?
That is
Yes.
correct.
That's what we're doing.
Not with each other, but with
see.
unsuspecting others
That's what we're doing.
No,
We'll be back.
Fight Club.
who were in the fight club. Yeah. It's just not, it wasn't consensual. Oh, no.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tuong.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Laura.
And we are
Disney Dummies.
Look, we know there are Disney super fans out there, but even the superest of fans could still be Disney dummies.
That's why the three of us are on a quest to watch every single animated theatrical release in chronological order, from Snow White all the way to whatever's out right now.
We dive into each movie in detail, talking about fun facts, talking about the animation, hit you with some hot takes, our favorite reviews on the internet.
We even talk about who fucks.
I still can't believe that's an actual segment.
So join us every second Wednesday for another episode of Disney Dummies.
And Pixar pals when we finally catch up.
Yeah. Brought to you by the fairy tale whimsical depths of the pod cavern.
Top five.
Hey everyone, we are back. We just had our fight club. It ended in a draw, so no one gets to sleep with anyone. Sorry.
But we all got bloody noses.
Yeah. So if we sound like we have like a cold or something, it's because no, we have to go to the hospital after this.
Tongue brought a knife. Just putting that out there. Not fair.
Yeah.
No knives at this fight
Not
club?
allowed. Guns only. Just kidding. We don't condone guns.
No. You meant like, arm guns. Arm guns. Yeah. Arm cannons. Yeah. We have a list of 12 movies from 2023, and let me tell you, all pretty good.
It's a list.
It's pretty good.
It's a handsome list.
Yeah. What we have in front of us is we have Godzilla -1, The Holdovers, Past Lives, Poor Things, The Boy and the Heron, American Fiction, Killers of the Flower Moon, Bottoms, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Theater Camp, and Blackberry. Pretty good.
Not a bad list.
Pretty good. All right. So this is the part of the show where we might start getting into it. So we might start getting to the nitty gritty. We'll try not to spoil everything about the movie, but I will just say, if you haven't watched these films yet, maybe take a pause and then come back to this part of the podcast.
Yeah, go watch 12 movies.
It's easy.
Then come back.
I watched 12
We'll be
movies
here.
in like 3 days. I think you can do it.
You're not one of those that watches them at like 1.2 speed, are you?
No.
Thank
That's a
God.
nightmare.
That's just for podcasts.
No,
And
I
only
will
when you're
watch-
I
behind.
do. I do that.
I would watch some on an iPad.
That's
if
fair.
I need
Did
to
you
like
guys see that quote from Christopher Nolan where he said he doesn't care if people watch movies on phones as long as they're watching the movie, he's happy with it.
Oh, he's
So
changed his tune
Christopher
on it.
Nolan says it's fine.
Okay.
It must be fine.
It's great. It's great.
Maybe
It's-
just don't have the sound on in public. That's all we ask.
was it you, Laura, who watched
Fair.
Dunkirk on the plane?
I watched Dunkirk on a plane. I don't recommend that.
Yeah. That movie's all about like its sound design too, and like, yeah, you're not getting that from an airplane for
Yeah,
sure.
my Apple earphones didn't quite get it for me.
Not the same. All right, so we are the part of the show where we're going to star nominations for further consideration. This might be one of those times on Ranked where we actually might have to talk about all of these to some degree before we cut them. But I'd like to just get a pulse check and still do stars first to see where everyone's head is at. So I'll get Taylor. If you want to star a nomination that isn't one of your
Past
own.
lives.
All right. Past lives.
Number one with a bullet.
I love the delivery on this. Alyssa, with the same gusto, do you want to star a nomination that isn't one of your own?
Don't know if I can match that, but The Holdovers.
Yeah, you did not match that, but that's okay.
I know, I'm sorry. Just know that I felt it in my heart.
Holdovers!
Kind of the same way Paul Giamatti couldn't express his emotions. That's how I feel about what I just did.
Nice.
I appreciate it because you are wearing a fake eye right now. So I don't know which one to look at. Laura.
The two that I was going to star have been stolen. So I'm going to star the one that I couldn't nominate, which was Barbie.
All right. Barbie is starred. I'm going to star Killers of the Flower Moon as my star.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
Bum, bum.
Okay, so what we have starred for
That's the
further
score.
consideration is we have Barbie, The Holdovers, Past Lives, and Killers of the Flower Moon. Let's do another round here, or at least open up to the floor. This might get messy because there's so many that we still want to talk about these to some degree, right? But is there any one of these movies that you all feel very strongly that we definitely need to have in the discussion?
Let's talk American fiction.
I would star that one, and I would star Oppenheimer.
Okay. I would talk about Godzilla.
I also do really want to talk about Poor Things because I want to hear Laura's thoughts.
Okay. Ones that aren't starred, Boy and the Heron. I mean, I would love to talk about it too, but I don't think I'll win anyone over here since two of you haven't seen it. Theater Camp, Bottoms, and Blackberry.
I'm very happy with Theater Camp getting a little mention here and then
Disappearing,
moving on.
moving.
Yeah.
Okay.
Between that and Bottoms, I would go Theater Camp over Bottoms personally.
I think between Theater Camp, Bottoms, and Blackberry, I've seen all those movies. I like them. They're actually kind of similar in a way. Would you agree, Alyssa? You think so? They have a certain
Sort of,
vibe
Yeah, they
to
kind
it.
of have
Indie
a
comedy.
similar tone. I feel like too, Theater Camp and Bottoms, I feel like we cancel each other out a little bit on those. We like them both, but different preferences. So I feel like they can kind of live together.
It's interesting to me because out of that type of vibe of movie, the kind of young, I don't know how to describe it, that indie film type of energy, I would have went with Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. That's
Love that movie too.
I liked it too.
That was on my list. Yeah.
yeah.
So good. Betty Safdie had an amazing 202023.
I know.
Put that out there.
I know.
Between that, Oppenheimer, and then The Curse, what three wildly different roles?
We watched Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret separately, and Tuong was like, what's that guy from? And I was like, I don't know, probably Oppenheimer, as a joke because there's so many people in Oppenheimer.
Totally. And I'm
then
like,
we
no,
Googled it.
no. You're thinking of Josh
He's
Peck.
the sunscreen guy.
Okay. I'm gonna start Boy and the Heron because I do want to talk about it anyways at some point. So what we don't have start, that's probably the easiest way to go through this, is Theater Camp, Bottoms, and Blackberry. Are we okay with that?
Did you start The Boy and the Heron?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Just to talk about it some more. Anything else you guys want to say about Theater Camp, Bottoms, or Blackberry before we let them go?
Go watch them.
Agreed.
Yeah, they're all good.
They're all fun. Blackberry's on my top 10 of the year. I think it's just goes back to just it being very watchable and an easy recommend, like Alyssa says. And Glenn Howerton yelling at stuff he can yell at me all day. Not sexually, just.
Oh no! Don't close the door.
He has to wear the bald wig. I guess that's what I want. All right.
That movie made me miss my BlackBerry, straight up.
Yeah.
I had one back in the day.
Me too. I'm
That's
like,
the best review that could get.
I was like, man, I kind of wish I kept some of those devices just lying around. I had the torch. I had the bolt, I think.
That's what I had, I think, yeah.
Everyone had the bolt.
You were breaking all kinds of bricks on that thing.
Yeah. So once again, Godzilla -1, Boy and the Heron, Barbie, The Holdovers, American Fiction, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Poor Things. That's 9 starred. Oh boy, that's a lot of stars, but that just means we have a lot to talk about because it was just such a strong year in movies. And a lot of the movies that I have in my top 10 weren't even mentioned on this list, which goes to show again how great of a year it was.
I was just going to say, Laura, can you tell us what the one movie that you wanted? I was dying to know. You're like, I was going to recommend this, but
Oh my god, I don't remember.
You said Tuong was going to make fun of you for it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Gran Turismo.
Oh, yeah.
Because I watched it immediately after Ferrari. And I was like, this is the movie that I wanted Ferrari to be. It was a lot of fun.
The one thing, I know we're not talking about Ferrari, but Patrick Dempsey with that white hair honestly made the movie worth it for me. I was into that.
Patrick Dempsey loves cars. I'm sure that was like the highlight of his life. 12 seasons as Dr. Derek Shepherd? No. But playing a bit role in this movie, I'm sure that was it for him.
He's so hot.
have no desire to see that movie.
He's a beautiful
now.
man.
So hot.
And I like his Italian accent.
Does Adam Driver sound like that too?
They all do fake Italian accents.
Shailene Woodley absolutely killed me. I couldn't handle it.
It was so bad. It was remarkably bad.
I kind of want to watch.
Penelope Cruz was quite good though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I kind of want to watch it because I've had a thing lately where I try to I try my best, but it always comes out poorly to copy accents in movies. So my latest thing has been the Bradley Cooper maestro accent, where you just go, darling, darling. We gotta go to the symphony, darling. But
we're going to the beach house, darling.
Darling. That movie's just okay.
It's like trans-American accent.
Well,
that's the Carey Mulligan one, I think. Yeah, it's transatlantic.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, how about we do locks next? I'm going to read the list one more time. This room's going to say if it's a lock or not. I think a lot of this discussion is going to be not a lock, and then we have to talk more about it for it to be a lock. But I just want to see if there's any movies that we all collectively know right now that should make the top 5. So I'll just read the list. Godzilla -1, lock or no lock? I'm going to assume it's not a lock for some people because you haven't seen it yet.
Correct.
Boy and the Heron, I think it's kind of in the same boat. So we'll skip that one too. It's a lock for me for both of those, just for the record. Barbie, lock or no lock? That's a lock for me.
Pass.
Not yet. Not yet.
Lock it up then. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I feel because it was such a huge movie in the culture, I feel like it kind of has to be on the list.
Okay, we'll do that. The Holdovers, easy lock for me.
Yeah, I'll give that a lock.
Taylor, that's you too? Yeah?
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. American Fiction, lock or no lock?
That's kind of a lock for me.
I mean,
for me, it's probably my top 5, but I also am like, there's like 6 movies that I'm ready to lock. So
yeah,
I'm going to hold back.
It's on the, I don't know.
Cool, don't lock it for now.
I do want to talk about it, yeah.
Oppenheimer.
I feel like if Barbie gets locked, that should get locked.
Agreed. And also, it's like it's probably going to win Best Picture. Like, I think it's the best movie of the year.
I don't know
if it's going to be our best movie of the year.
I think it's a better movie. Just saying.
Than Barbie, yeah.
I'm not ready to lock it yet.
Me neither.
But I understand where you're coming from. Past Lives.
Yeah.
That's a lock.
That's a yeah. I think so. No, you know what? I'm going to hold off, but it is on my top 10.
No, you're not. You're locking that, young man.
Did you cry when you watched it?
I felt things, but I didn't cry.
I was the same way, I think. It takes a lot for me to cry at movies. But when I do,
yeah.
Toy Story 4.
Toy Story 4 over here.
Not 3?
3, 2. But shockingly...
3, 2, 1.
Shockingly, 4 really bad.
That's a whole discussion. We don't have to get into that now. You can listen to our Disney Dummies podcast where we talk about Toy Story 4. Killers of the Flower Moon, lock or no lock?
I'd lock that.
I would too.
It's not a lock for me.
I'm very close to locking that too. I think between Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon, I want to lock one of the 3-hour picks. Yeah, we'll talk about it in just a sec. Poor Things, lock or no lock?
It's a lock for me.
It's a no lock for me.
Okay, that's okay. We'll move on from... Actually, Taylor... Do you, just a gut check, where are you on Poor Things? Just lock or no lock?
I thought it was great. You can lock it for now. Like, these are just the ones that we're going to continue discussing, so that's why I'm saying lock for these ones that I think warrant more discussion. Okay.
The ones that were for sure locked were Barbie and The Holdovers. The ones that weren't locked were Godzilla, Boy and the Heron, American Fiction, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Killer of the Flower Moon, and Poor Things. I am going to lock Past Lives now that I've read the list one more time.
Thank you.
So now we have 3 that are locked. So really only need 2 on this list. Again, Barbie's, Holdovers, and Past Lives. We always like to make a rounded list if possible, but at the end of the day, it is our favorite collectively as a group. So yeah, where do we want to start with the discussion?
How about we talk about The Boy and the Heron and Godzilla -1? Because I think those are 2 films that not all of us have seen, whereas I think we've all seen all the other ones.
Should we talk about Godzilla first then? I think Taylor's the only other person who's watched it. And you had stuff you wanted to say about it, right?
Yeah, it's Probably not a top 5 for me here, especially since 2 of them haven't seen it, but great movie. I love a creature feature. What was so good about this Godzilla movie versus, say, like the current American ones that are coming out where Godzilla King of Monsters, he's kind of the hero, was made Godzilla a villain again, and he's just Godzilla-ing all over the place. He's terrifying. Like, there's a scene on a fishing boat.
So good.
Scene.
That's
incredible.
That's the scene that sticks in my brain. Like, so cool.
So good.
And it's very Jaws-like, that literal scene.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. And yeah, just anytime like Godzilla shows up, you're just like, oh no, this is going to be horrible. But yeah, to Tung's point he mentioned earlier, like it takes place after the fire bombings of what city are they in? Sorry, I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
My history.
Yeah.
But what I thought was cool, like I just want like worth noting in this movie is that the very first Godzilla movie that came out in the 50s, it was just kind of like an allegory for like Godzilla. He's a nuclear dinosaur.
It's in Tokyo.
Oh, that makes sense. The fire bombings.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, so like it was about, the people in Japan dealing with the aftermath of like the nuclear bombs that were dropped on the cities. So then like Godzilla is kind of like a manifesting, and it's an allegory for that, like what man can create and what it can do to cities, wipes everything out. This movie is all about, instead of that, it's just about kind of survivor's guilt. The main character, whose name I'm not sure of right now, it's just,
I think it's Shikishima or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it starts, he was a kamikaze pilot, and he didn't go. He like at the beginning, he lied. He said he had engine trouble because he was scared to go. And then like, so they died. And then like, there's a Godzilla thing, and then more people die. He goes back to Tokyo, and like everybody's dead. And it's just him dealing with the guilt. And that just keeps kind of coming. And they have these like found families. And then it's just like, they're just kind of like changing like the allegory. Like Godzilla is like manifesting in this kind of like survivor's guilt for people. I just thought that was super cool. And like, that's, you were talking about how good the human stuff is. And I think it's because of that, struggling with these things. And that's kind of what he needs to overcome in the movie. Yeah, I thought it was just really good.
Yeah.
Great Godzilla-ing.
I mean, I haven't watched a lot of Godzilla, so I can't really say, but for me, it's my favorite Godzilla I've ever seen. Made me excited about like monster features again, creature features, and like kaiju stuff again. But like it's just more than that, because I think when people think about that, it's just like giant monsters fighting each other, or like humans taking down Godzilla, and there's elements of that. Like this movie does veer eventually into like anime territory, where like the human characters are like kind of not, I don't want to say stereotypes, but you've seen some of these characters before where you're like the brave captain or whatever, and he's like kind of like shitty boat, but him and his like tiny crew are going to try to do some damage to this Godzilla creature. So you as like the watcher are really rooting for those moments, because like there's a lot of these moments in this movie where it's very sad because the survivor's guilt and the trauma this character has gone through. They do a very good portraying this very human story in a very, fantasy setting where there's a giant lizard monster about to destroy Tokyo, that kind of thing, right? So, and I think a lot of this movie comes in as a surprise for me too. Like, I just did not expect to love a Godzilla, let alone it being my number 2 movie of the year. Like, it really surprised me, and just knowing the production over it, and I kind of like offhandedly mentioned that it was made for like $10 to $15 million, and I think that's just an incredible feat. It looks like a big blockbuster movie.
It's crazy. Every dollar's on the screen. And
like, I've seen movies that cost like $500 million. I might be like oversaying that, but like I think about like Ant-Man and the Wasp, or Ant-Man Quantumania, that type of like, this movie's definitely costing minimum $300 million a year. And yet Godzilla -1 looks so much better than any of like most of the movies that I've seen this year, just because it knew where to spend its money and where to like really draw the audience like visually and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it was great. And it's hard to make a Godzilla film, I think, and they did it.
I mean, yeah, they've done 20 of them.
Yeah.
But they're not all hitting like this. If you do like some creature features, Tuong, I'd recommend 2006's The Host, done by Bong Joon-ho from Parasite.
I've seen it. Yeah,
okay.
I've seen it.
That, and if you guys haven't revisited Tremors in a while,
no, I haven't.
Perfect movie.
Fun.
Perfect movie.
Okay, great.
Love Tremors.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a minute, so I would rewatch that for sure.
I don't know if I've ever seen a creature feature.
I really wish you watched Godzilla. That was
Laura. Reba is in Tremors.
So
you'll enjoy it.
If Reba's in, then count me in.
The thing that
AJ Ferguson himself. That's a Little Rascals reference. I don't know if you guys are fans.
Oh man, I've seen that and I don't remember that. The only thing I wish I saw was the Godzilla minus color, just to see, because that was a whole thing. They released a theatrical run of it with just black and white, and the movie wasn't made for black and white. So I'm very curious how that did, if it really changed the vibe of it all. Yeah. Anyways. Godzilla. And then Boy and the Heron, I mean, Laura, you're the only one who watched it. I in terms of animated movies, the one that like I rewatched this last night, Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, I fucking love that movie. Rewatching it again made me love it again, once again. Like just the animation of that specific movie blew me away. And I liked Into the Spider-Verse, like we talked about this in another podcast. I think it was Taylor and I talked about that, and it was like one of my favorite movies of the the decade, or even. And I thought Across the Spider-Verse was like just as good, but somehow Boy and the Heron came along and trumped that feeling of even Across the Spider-Verse. And I think really it comes down to this like very poignant story of legacy, healing, grief, and then you surround it in this like otherworldly world of imagination and universe that like portrays all these themes in such a creative way, and then you underscore it with one of like, to me, like one of the best film scores of this year.
Yeah.
And I think just all of it working in unison, and it has a lot to say about even Miyazaki as like it's meta in the way that it's somehow talking about his, I think anyways, with the way I watched it, it talks about his journey of being a creator and his legacy of what he's put out into the world, and coming to the grips of like even his like his sons and daughters don't have to follow in his footsteps, and that you can carve out your own path, and like your own person, like you don't have to like follow the path that is laid out for you. But also it's that, and then it's talking about his like losing his mother at a young age, like this boy. And I don't know, there's just so many different themes that are going in this movie, and I think the way it all kind of works together, coupled with like, yes, incredible animation and music, really elevated it for me. So, but it's hard to like convince someone to be like, you should put this on your list, or you should put this on the top 5 if two of you haven't seen it yet. So, and if you like Ghibli films, then I can't see you not liking this film. And he's like obviously one of the most influential directors in anime like ever, not even just in anime, just in general, I think.
He is the GOAT.
Yeah.
My I said that I did enjoy this movie, and unexpectedly so, but I do have one criticism of it, which is that I found towards the end it was really hard to follow the plot, from the point where, I guess we're getting into spoiler territory now, where like he passes out with his like the young version of his mother at the deathbed, or in the birthing bed of his stepmother / aunt. This is going to sound so confusing for people who haven't seen it. And then he wakes up and meets like I think of him as like the wizard, but his like great uncle or something like that. Like that scene felt like it should have come later in the movie, because then he kind of becomes conscious again and he's in shackles, and you're like, wait, how did he get here? So I found like that as a real distraction towards the end of the movie, when I was supposed to be like kind of really pulled into the emotions, I think, of the movie and like the themes and stuff. So that's my main criticism of it, is there's a little bit of a like story structure funky thing going on in the second half.
I think that's super fair. And I think Miyazaki films do, I wouldn't say suffer for it. It's just kind of his thing where like, it's just, there's a lot of dense stuff. And especially when you think you're following the story well, and then they introduce a new character that's just like, here's a bunch of new things thrown at you, which is why it's like on multiple watch throughs, it would, I think, make more sense. But you can't expect that of the audience to say, you should watch it at least 2 or 3 more times kind of thing. Taylor, you raised your hand. Very polite.
Yeah, something I just want to note for Miyazaki, he oftentimes, when he starts a movie, he doesn't have the full story, and he lets the story take him where it goes to its natural conclusion. So maybe if something feels like it's not following a specific structure, oftentimes that's the way, and it's more the feeling that he follows. Haven't seen the movie, can't speak to that, but that is a thing. He's kind of, you're not really supposed to, they say, but like he's laying the train tracks down as you're going on the, that's kind of how he makes his movies. So
Makes
that
sense.
sounds like it might be an issue there.
Do you know who else does this? Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise on the Mission Impossible movies. That's my one Mission Impossible reference of the pod.
Oh, wow.
Quota
okay.
complete.
Oh, boy.
Bless.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about Boy and the Heron for now, I think. But I do think it's definitely worth a watch. And it is inspired by two books, I believe. One that is literally called Boy and the Blue Heron or something like that, and a different book that I forget its name now. So he kind of melds those stories together. I think there's something to be said about a non-linear story in the way that it doesn't exactly, I mean, I think this goes kind of both ways, but I love the layer of complexity that Miyazaki puts in his films. It not being completely straight through to follow is kind of intriguing for me because I know I'm going to watch this movie again, but I know for like a lot of people, it's going to be a one-time watch type of thing. And so if you can't follow it as an audience member, then it might not be as like digestible. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Let's move on to talking about American Fiction a little bit more and see if that will make the list. Taylor, Alyssa, anything more you want to say about that movie?
I think my favorite thing about that movie was the contrast between when he's writing his like essentially his movie, he just like commits to the bit too hard. So when he's writing his book that he's, that's a bit, he's using all these really stereotypical like issues and problems. But then in his actual life, he's going through what's the word I'm looking for? He's just going through problems that we all go through. Mm-hmm. Like it's such a nice contrast between he's like, this is what you think we're all going through, but actually we're all going through the same stuff. We have family drama. His mother is like going through like the early stages of dementia. It's like, I thought that was a really nice point to be like, to even further show how ridiculous the stereotype is, because at the end of the day, we're kind of all going through similar things. So that was another reason why I really liked the contrast between like the satire of it and then the family drama of it.
I had a take on this movie that other people might not agree with, but my interpretation of it was like, so, the filmmaker is making this argument that we really only popularize a certain type of like quote unquote black story, but really like black stories contain multitudes and there's so many different types of them and so many that are untold. And like my thoughts was that the kind of framing device for this movie, so all of the family stuff that was going on outside of the actual writing of the book was like a spoof on a Nora Ephron film, which famously star like only white people, in that you've got like this middle-aged romance with a neighbor, you've got some family drama, you've got like siblings who are really big personalities, and like that's a type of story that we almost never see black people featured in. But they did that here while also making the point, like within the book that he's writing and the story that he's telling there, that is really not authentic to his own personal experiences. But that's what audiences want to like put money towards, right? And like and purchase and consume and all that good stuff. So I don't know. That's kind of my take on the movie.
That's interesting. No, I like that perspective. My thing with this movie was I already mentioned like a dozen times now, but I'll say it again. Like we just watched a lot of movies in like a span of 3 weeks, like a lot. So for myself, going through the Best Picture noms, going through like movies that were on our like Google Sheets or whatever like that, there's a lot of movies that are just so heavy and draining by the end of it. And they all have a message. They all have a point. And I'm always looking for that in a movie that has like, what is the meat of this movie? What is it trying to say? And American Fiction has definitely something to say, but it was so much more enjoyable because I wasn't exhausted by the end of it. I wasn't like, oh, okay. Because like, you watch something like May, December, for example, something that's just like, and for whatever reason, that movie is labeled as a comedy, which I do not agree with whatsoever.
I mean, that hot dog line, pretty funny.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But this movie was like genuinely funny. And I thought it had something to say about, obviously it satirizes a lot of things too, but like just what we as an audience or the collective we want out of a black story or whatever, like all of that stuff worked really well. And then after I watched that movie, I could easily watch another movie because I didn't have to like, just cry in bed for a few hours.
Decompress.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my take on American Fiction. I really enjoyed it.
To that point, something I loved is this is towards the end, but like just the way that the movie ends, he goes up when he's accepting the award on behalf of
I was scared about that part of the movie.
Then he goes up and he's at the podium, the lectern, excuse me, and he's about to, and then it cuts to black, and then we go to Adam Brody, which is so funny.
Yeah,
but
Adam
it's
Brody
just like
so good.
Killed me in this movie.
Yeah,
they smoked him. Yes, it's so funny. Yeah, like, and then he gets to the podium and you're like, okay, here's going to be kind of, you're just saying, here's the message of the movie, instead of him just being like, we're more than these stories, because they've already said that throughout the movie, and then it cuts to black, and then it does the whole thing, and then he's workshopping the movie at the end, and it just kind of, it doesn't explain, it doesn't like spoon feed you the message at the end. It's just like, you figure it out. You take away what you want from this. It's like, we've already told you, we're not going to belabor the points. Yeah. It's like, what more do you want us to do? I could tell you, but then you're going to be like, oh, it's one of those type of movies. They just kind of, they'd be like, all right, I've said everything I need to say. And then they kind of dip out. The last shot of like Monk in the convertible. And then he looks over at the guy from the, what was that, like plantation assassination, whatever the movie was.
Yeah.
There's just that actor who like, he looks like he's just sitting there and he's like in the old Confederate clothes and he just like gives him the peace sign and he's just kind of like, I'm making a living, and Monk's like, I'm doing the same thing, and like they drive away and it's like, was it right? Was it wrong? It's like, who's to say? We're not telling you. We're and like, you're not going to tell us. Like, he has a really good discussion with Issa Rae's character about that type of story and the black struggle, and he's like, we can improve, and she's like, well, improving means like whatever's in front of you isn't good enough, and you're just like, God damn, okay. Like, it's just
that discussion was really good. I thought that was
really good, and there's no clear-cut answer.
It was because it was interesting because like when she reads the excerpt of her book, like it sounds.
You mean Wheeze lives in the ghetto?
Yeah.
So funny. Also, what's the name of his movie?
My pathology.
My pathology and then fuck. Yeah, I was saying I was scared at the end of the movie because like when it cuts to black, I'm like, oh, is it going to be one of these at the end? And it very smartly kind of subverts all of that, like showing us different versions of how the regular audience wants this movie to
exactly.
end.
Well, would you like it like this? It's like, I don't like that. Is like, well, would you like it like that? And it's like, well, they don't like that. And it's just like, we're not going to spoon feed you. Like, it's just whatever. Here it is. Like, what did you want to happen? Cool, that happened. Move on.
Yeah. This
is the job.
Agreed.
It was really cool. I thought it was very clever.
Yeah.
And I feel like for like a trope that is kind of common in terms of you get to the end of the movie and you find out like they're writing about it, you know, it's very like Little Women or whatever. I didn't see that ending and I was like, oh, this again. It was like it felt really fresh, even though it's, you know, something we've kind of seen before. They did it in a nice way that I was like, oh, that's perfect.
I think it was kind of, it's fresh.
So every time they kept like offering him more money for the book rights and the film rights, and I died every time. It was hilarious.
So funny. Also, just the whole romance, not with Coraline, but with the housekeeper Lorraine and then Maynard.
Oh my God.
I was like, we were watching it. I was like, we love old love. Like, you don't see that. Yep. Usually if you do, and like, especially a comedy, it's kind of treated like a joke. Be like, oh my God, can you believe these old people are doing it? But like, it was so sweet. And she's like, can you walk me down the aisle, Monk? And I was like, my God.
That felt
so
like something
lovely.
that could be in a Nancy Meyers or Nora Ephron movie. Yeah.
That's really connecting for me now, Laura. I'm like, yes, that is 100%. It's like, and that's the thing, obviously, that made me cry because I'm so trained to love these narratives.
Yep.
I really like the Sterling K. Brown stuff too. Like, I thought it was just
incredible.
Really worked for me. And even like the mother at the very end being like, you're so hard on yourself. And then she says the name of Sterling K. Brown's character. And it's like, wow, this is all it's just working for me. Great movie. What else do we want to say about before we go there, Oppenheimer. Actually, I guess we can talk about them in tandem and like back to back kind of thing. Just because they're both the 3-hour movies.
Okay, I'm going to say something. And I think, so Taylor, earlier you kind of said like Barbie and Oppenheimer sort of exist in the category of like the Barbenheimer, like the big movie that was a huge draw for getting people to theaters this summer.
Yeah, I mean, Tongue said it first.
Yeah, Tongue. Absolutely.
I did say that.
And Taylor. I'm 2 drinks in, everybody. So from here on out, my words aren't super reliable. But I'm gonna put forward the suggestion that Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer can go head to head, because they're both 3-hour plus movies, but just joking. That's not the only reason. It's because they're movies like whose stories are not necessarily like, we're hearing the stories of these individuals. Like Leonardo DiCaprio is the main character in Killers of the Flower Moon, even though it's very much like an indigenous, or I suppose you could say Native American story. Yeah. And Oppenheimer is very much the main character of the movie Oppenheimer, even though like his actions like impacted the lives of many millions of Japanese people and other people, I'm sure, from, you know, other parts of the world, much more than his own life might have been impacted from them. But they're both like men who we're looking at through this perspective of being like, oh, these men are flawed, but we're using them as like a lens to tell this story. And for me, that's why it's like, I want to put one or the other of these on this list, but not necessarily both of them.
Oh, I don't think both of them are going to make this list. Well,
Questionable.
Oh,
but,
I'm like, how do you choose though?
So, but like just through that lens, like I get it, especially with the killers. Maybe it's not their story to tell, but I feel like focusing on Oppenheimer to tell Oppenheimer's story makes a lot of sense to me. Just saying.
I'm not saying that it's the wrong choice to do that, but it's more so that like I think the stories have so much similarity between them.
Okay, so if you guys think about both of those movies, which one had a bigger like emotional impact on you?
Killers.
Yeah, like Killers of the Flower Moon's on my top 10. Oppenheimer's not. That's where I'm at with it. But I liked Oppenheimer. Like I did like it. I remember, like, I think it's one of Christopher Nolan's best in a few years. But I was going to say that, like, this is a personal preference. I tend to like Christopher Nolan's like non-historical I don't know, like I just liked his previous movies more, like his like Dunkirk and this movie Oppenheimer. I guess I never saw Tenet, but like I just kind of like
the historical
yeah I know, but those two movies, like I just like things like his Mementos and his Dark Knights, and like I just like his Inceptions, something that's a little bit more fantastical. I wouldn't put Memento in that category, but different. Were you gonna say, Alyssa? You were gonna say something?
No, I was just curious it's funny. Like, I'm just trying to answer that question for myself. Like, I feel like I had emotional reactions to both of them, but just in different ways. Like that scene in Oppenheimer when they're like celebrating that the bombs were used.
That's the one that sticks
that
with me the most.
scene.
Again, sound.
Like, I feel like I could start crying talking about it. Like, just like the visuals, and it's like you can kind of see him starting to realize like, what have I done? Did,
yeah.
But he's still trying to like celebrate and keep the energy up. And I like that just wrecked me. And then also too, the last scene of that movie, like the last line is also really resonates. But I also have moments like that with Killers of the Flower Moon.
With Oppenheimer, that scene, it's just like that one made me feel sick to my stomach when it's like shaking and it's just like you hear all the feet on the bleachers. And just like the Djangoism of everybody just like screaming and celebrating. And what I thought was like, I think that scene is perfect because it's just like what happens is like whenever Oppie's walking and it goes quiet, right? Like you don't hear what they're saying. And then you see people celebrating and then he's walking out and under the bleachers, you see people kissing and making out. And then you go outside and you see somebody throwing up. And they're three very different emotions, but each one of them elicits the same like, fuck no, like each, and it's just like it was like so I was like, oh weird, everything feels dirty now, like I've fucked up everything. And I thought that was so good because it's like people are happy, oh I feel sick, people are making love, I feel sick, someone's throwing up, I feel sick. And it's just like I thought that was so brilliantly done. For me, Oppenheimer, I thought about a long time afterward. I still think about it, and it's like, Alyssa, I don't know if you read the script for it, but something that's like really cool is how it's told different timelines because Chris Nolan loves timey-wimey. But like all the black and white stuff, the court hearings and that closed door session where they were doing the whatever you call that, all that stuff is on the record. So all that is literally transcribed. Those are the words that they said.
That's pretty
wild.
wild.
Then everything that's in color is all subjective from Oppenheimer's, how he felt about things. So just like those sort of things where it's like you don't even necessarily notice it when you're watching it, and it's like, this feels a little different. It's like, because that all happened. That was real. And then the other stuff, and it's like, this is just from his point of view, which I thought was a really interesting way to tell the story. And it's like, well, that didn't quite happen like that. And I know some people are like, why didn't they tell the story about like the people they kicked off the land? Why didn't they do this? And it's like, because it's from Oppenheimer's eyes. And like, he's not a good person. He wasn't thinking about that. He wasn't looking. He wasn't seeing those things. Or like the scene when they're deciding where to bomb, and then one of the generals is like, I did my honeymoon there, actually. Don't do that. I like that place. So
that also made me sick to my stomach.
Incredible. And you're just like, sorry, what? Like these whims in the lives of people are just like, oh no, actually I like the food there. So no, that can stay. And you're just like, really? Like we're changing the world forever, just like it's crazy the power that these people have. And I don't know. I thought it was a super powerful movie, and I thought about it. I still think about it. Just how the movie was made. I think. Oh, also the script is first person. Oppenheimer's like, I went and did this, I did that, which is again cool because it's like it's subjective.
Also, too, like Robert Downey Jr.'s character, like he, you know how he's obsessed with like, what did Einstein say about me? Again, it's just like this theme of like people being selfish and not thinking like maybe something's bigger than my own personal experience. that moment really resonated with me too. Just like, dude, it's not about you.
I
Not
just
at
like
all.
that Cillian Murphy is getting his flowers now. Like, finally,
And he
finally.
was phenomenal.
Yeah. I really liked Oppenheimer too. My preference goes to Killers of the Flower Moon. But what do you Claire?
I just helped me to flag another couple similarities between this and Killers of the Flower Moon, which is that both movies really just highlight the very worst of humanity, and also the two lead characters both wear hats.
There you go.
Very important
There's that.
point.
No.
Very good point.
The reason why I kind of put those two up against each other is because we're really looking, there's 4 starred movies left. And I feel like maybe Poor Things has dropped off a little bit, but we've got Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and American Fiction. And then Poor Things as the 4, of which we, in theory, have to choose 2 if we keep our 3 locks of Past Lives, Holdovers, and Barbie. Should we talk a little bit more about Killers of the Flower Moon?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Well, the one thing I want what was your guys' reaction? I mean, huge spoiler alert. But when Scorsese walked on screen, what was your reaction? It blew me away.
Yeah, I was like, he's so cute.
Horrible.
The cutest little man.
So I just watched every Scorsese movie like in order as well. So like I'm always just like, oh, that voice on the phone or like that like PA announcement, that was Marty, like because he always cameos and stuff. But he just like rocked up onto the stage to do that, like also that old timey like radio show that they were doing.
Yeah, like,
so cool.
so
Just
cool.
all the sound
Foley
effects.
effects.
But I loved that.
Yeah.
It reminded me of almost like the end of Schindler's List when like they're dropping the stones on the graves, and the first hand that does that is Spielberg's. But so you could have done like, and David went on to become like the text on the screen, which we've seen a million times, and I've never seen anything as creative as that. I thought it was really cool.
It also, I was just like, the fact that they were highlighting, like, okay, these people just went through this horrific experience, and then it was taken and made into something for entertainment value. And I work in marketing, so I was also like, the fact that Lucky Strike was a sponsor, so they would have made money off of it, and they had to feature the product in the show. But then also at the same time, I'm like, I'm kind of doing the same thing right now, though. And him coming out and straight up, like, to me, that was him acknowledging, like, I'm doing the same thing. But I am trying to like tell this story from a point of view where it's not something that's pure entertainment. I'm trying to make sure that this story resonates and these people's pain is honored. And I was just like, I was absolutely floored, and I couldn't stop thinking about that. Like, how are we complicit in not honoring people's pain? Honestly, the Lucky Strike as a sponsor, it took me out. I was like, we are doing this every day.
And I think in some ways this also like ties in somewhat to American Fiction and this idea of like we portray the trauma of marginalized groups. And as much as I think Killers of the Flower Moon, like the producers and the creators of the movie really did a great job of putting Indigenous voices at the forefront, which is so rare in films, it is still like a certain type of story, right? And so it's sort of like, okay, this is progress, but there's still like so much further to go beyond this.
That was a complaint. A pretty big complaint of the movie was that I forget her name. She stars in Reservation Dogs. Anyways, she put out a statement saying like Lily Gladstone's fantastic and stuff like that, but we are more than just the trauma of what happened in the past and stuff. Which is like, it's a hard. That one's hard because I agree. Obviously, they are definitely more than trauma, but this is the story they're trying to tell of a story that people forgot about as well, right? So it's kind of like, I don't know. That one's a little bit complicated. But the thing is, like, for Killers of the Flower Moon, I think about that movie a lot more because it comes back to me is how am I thinking about the world and am I listening to these stories in the right way and that kind of thing, which I think is what Killers of the Flower Moon's trying to get you to do, is trying to make you think about your place in all of this, where Oppenheimer is a fantastic movie for sure, but I think more about, it doesn't make me think about my place in the world, I guess.
Devery Jacobs is the actress from
I see.
Reservation Dogs.
Let's put a pin on that and talk about Poor Things, because that's the last one that we need to speak about. Laura, do you want to take that away?
Yeah, I'll chat a little bit more about it. I'm going to go back to a conversation that Tuong and I recently had with our friends Sam and Brad about the movie Brave. And about how, do you guys know Brave? It's a Pixar movie. Okay, so basically the trailer promised us the story of like this young woman going out on a great adventure. And I think I personally, and many others were so excited about it because it's like, what's she going to do? What amazing like things is she going to see? What is she going to accomplish? And then it's like, oh, she gets in a fight with her mom and they have to repair their relationship. Like,
And
okay.
her mom's a bear.
Yeah. And we talked a lot about like how rare and refreshing it is when you actually get to see young women in particular have a big adventure, and to the point where like sometimes it's even hard for us to imagine what adventure would look like. And I feel like this movie showed such a great adventure for a young woman out there exploring the world and not having a lot of the reservations that we have as adults because of, let's say, her unique circumstances of being a baby's brain embedded in a woman's body. But I thought that the movie was really unexpected. Like, I really couldn't see where it was going to go next. I thought the visuals were incredible and so imaginative and
Lots
so
of
much
fisheye.
fun. I was invested.
It's a Yargos movie, baby. That's
Yeah, exactly. And there were just a lot of like unexpected turns. As I don't think I loved Mark Ruffalo, sorry, as much as
Willem.
as much as others did in this movie, but the idea of his character was such a fun one. And visually fascinating and adventurous. And I think, that I would say that's what I loved most about it. Also, I saw it shortly after watching Ferrari.
I really liked, that's all great points, Laura. I really liked, the visual style of the movie. I love the world of it, like this, like Frankenstein's monster mixed with...
And I do not like Frankensteinian stories. None of this body horror stuff. Not for me.
I don't know. I liked all that, and just like the certain level of quirk that this movie had, and I did like Emma Stone a lot, and this character of like learning to be, she's just like I don't know what's the correct term for it, but she's like a wild flower? No, I don't know. She's just trying to, there's a sense of freedom that she's trying to get for herself and accomplish, and she's learning so much of the world, and we're taken from that journey from basically when she's her young brain to like when she gets to the end of the movie. I think my complaint about the movie is, honestly, I think they lean a little bit too hard on the sex stuff in the movie. That's where it kind of like it's just they focus.
He's European. That's
sure,
fine.
yeah, I know, but it's just it is a part of learning who you are and growing up and stuff like that, and like figuring out all that stuff and what's wrong with the world and all that stuff. But I just felt like there was just too much of that, where I wanted to see some more mature stuff coming out towards the end of that film for her.
Sex can be mature, Tuong.
It can be.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty mature.
Yeah, but the way she talks about it is very immature, right? Like, it's just because she doesn't know what it is yet, right? Like, it's,
what does she call it? Fancy bouncing or something?
Yeah, it's like we're gonna
furious jumping.
Furious jumping.
Fancy bouncing.
It's just a little too much for me. So, but anyways, otherwise, I did enjoy it as well.
I've got stuff to say, but Alyssa, I know all the pieces didn't add up to like the sum of their parts for you. I want to hear.
I keep saying I wonder if it would come together for me, LOL, in a second viewing.
I don't get it. I'm just kidding.
We'll tell you when you're older.
It's too mature.
Yeah.
Anyways, I wonder if I watched it again, if I would have a different opinion. Like, did you guys see Anatomy of a Fall?
Yes, fucking loved it.
Oh shit, I forgot about it. I didn't write anything down this time.
So the first
Really
time
good.
I watched that movie, I was very like, I don't really get the hype.
Yeah.
And then I was like, maybe I'll just watch it again. And when I watched it again, it clicked for me. And I kind of wonder if Poor Things will be the same. I also am not really like a huge fantasy girl. So I wonder if it was just the fantasy elements that I was like the animals that are like different heads on different bodies. Like, that's just like not really my thing.
Willem Dafoe burping a giant bubble.
Yeah, I was like,
So
what's
gross.
going on?
That was the best part.
I'm not really a Yorgos girly. Like, I didn't like The Lobster. I wasn't a huge fan of The Favorite. So
Same.
I might just not be the audience for it. But
that's
again,
okay.
there were things I loved. Like, I loved that whole section where they're on the ship. Like, I loved her becoming that friend with that older lady.
Yes.
I thought it was very funny. Like, there was lots of lines I was laughing at. And it looked amazing. Like, again, all the aspects like broken down in parts I can appreciate. But for some reason, it didn't stick with me. I do wonder if a second viewing will help that. But I also do recognize, I think like best picture race is like Oppenheimer and Poor Things. So I'm like, this movie made a huge impact. And I have a lot of respect for that. So that's why I'm also like, just because it didn't really resonate with me, I would be fine with it having a place in the 5.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah,
Sticky
sorry.
position.
Couple things. Yeah, production design and the costuming, unfreaking believable. Like even like rarely am I every time like somebody walks in, I was just like, look at the ruffles on that dress. Like look at like the costumes were insane. And I would have given production design to like Barbie, but then I saw this movie as like, holy shit, I've never seen such an inventive, fun world. It doesn't look like Tim Burton, but you know how Tim Burton is like an auteur, he has his style or whatever.
Yeah.
Like not since something like that have I seen something where I was just like, what is this weird world? Like the smoke of your ship is green or orange. Like just everything was so weird, and I loved that. But for me, why this movie worked is because when it first started, the first like 20 minutes, I was kind of like, well, hang on now, like let's see. Because one of the biggest tropes in movies that I hate is something that we call the sexy baby, or
And he says he doesn't like Taylor Swift.
Come on, Taylor.
I don't get that reference, so
We'll
that's how
explain
you know
later.
it's true. Or I was like looking it up after I saw the movie, and people call it "Born Sexy Yesterday."
I just got it by the way. The sexy baby thing. Go continue.
But like, so basically, yeah, it's just like this trope where a beautiful woman, like think of Splash or The Fifth Element. Those are like great examples of just like this beautiful woman she could be an alien, she could be a mermaid, she could be a robot or whatever. Ex Machina is another good example of that, where they come into the world and like people are just like, I'm in love with you. Let me teach you. I need to like show you about the world. But like for all intents and purposes, they are a child. They have almost no autonomy. They're not very intelligent oftentimes. Not saying they're not intelligent, but they need to be taught about like how the machinations of the world. And then so when this movie started, it's literally a baby's brain in her head. And like when it started, I was like, oh, is this just like a sexy baby movie? Frankenstein himself, kind of a sexy baby. Unless you like Mary Shelley's book, he could actually read.
He's more of a monster on the hill, I'd say.
Fair enough.
Joke of the cast.
I don't understand. It's Taylor Swift.
doesn't get
Sorry.
Is that a
everyone.
Taylor Swift thing?
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
You weren't born in 1989. You wouldn't understand. Neither was I, though.
But yeah, so I thought it was so great because like the movie, she comes and she's an idiot at the start of the movie. She's walking around because she's literally an infant. But then like these men meet her and they're like, I love you. I want to marry you. And then as the movie, like with Rami Youssef and then Mark Ruffalo, they come, they'd be like, oh, you're so intriguing. There's something different about you. I like you. And then she discovers her sexuality and that starts up. But then as the movie progresses, she gets intelligent. She gets really smart. She becomes a doctor. The smarter she gets in the movie, the less attracted that these people are to her. They're like, you know what? I liked you more when you were just simple and da-da-da-da. And I was like, oh, this is so good. This is like,
That's good, Mark Ruffalo.
I think the whole thing, thank you, was a commentary on like the kind of sexy baby trope where it's just like, oh, look, because like I said, when the movie started, I was like, is this another one of these? But it's like, no, the whole point is the more she discovers about herself, and she does have a lot of sex, and it's like, you know what? Some people like to have a lot of sex. That's you. Do you, girl. But like as it goes on, the smarter she gets, the less attractive to these people she becomes. And I was like, that's so smart.
To men, but maybe more attractive to women.
Hey.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
a good point.
Yeah.
And it was so good, and it was just like, yeah, men are so stupid, and like they just like they like things that they can control, or and then I mean when she goes back to the general, what a perfect example of that, and like the things he wants to do to her to keep her under the thumb, and just horrible. And like I thought as the movie progressed, I liked it more and more. The more books you throw over the deck of a boat, the more I like it. And she gets a new one. And like I just loved that. So that's why the movie really clicked for me. Because like if we're watching a movie and we see that trope, Steph and I will be like, sexy baby. But so it started, and I was just like, they subverted it, and they like it just felt like a commentary on that to me, and I love that. So
Taylor, I love all these points. If you can sum up that entire thing in one Taylor Swift song, what would it be?
Shake It Off. Boom.
Boom.
I'd go with Anti-Hero, but I appreciate your effort.
I'm just
I
proud
literally had to.
I'm
did
proud
you
of
hear that
Taylor.
pause?
He even got one. Like that's great.
I was like, come on. What's
You got
the one? I was
there.
like,
You
it's
got
the
some-
squad. Is like, no, that was her friends.
Squat it up? Is that it? Is Squat It Up?
So Taylor, so you know, she has a lyric. Sometimes I feel like everybody is a sexy baby, and I'm the monster on the hill.
Oh, okay. Laura, joke of the cast. I get it now.
Wow. Should we start doing that at episode 165?
Yes,
Joke of
absolutely.
the cast. Boom, 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 boom.
So we got 4 movies and 2 spots still. as
All right,
as well as our other three.
I think, at this point, I think Godzilla and Boy and the Heron aren't going to make this list, which I'm fine with. It doesn't make sense on our collective list, even though I love those movies dearly. Seems to me American Fiction, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Poor Things are 4, and we need 2 of them. We've talked a lot about all of them at this point. Can add a little extra color at the end if we want. But at this point, I would love to hear, Alyssa, out of those 4 movies, what is your favorite that you want to get on there?
I truly don't know how I'm going to pick between Killers and Oppenheimer. I feel like you guys
both?
are gonna,
Would you pick both?
I would probably pick both. I feel like you guys need to make the decision for me. I'm like, I don't know.
But I'm glad to hear that
Those are
that's
your
where
top 2.
That's your brain going there. Okay, Taylor, what about yourself out of the 4? And you could actually pick 2. If you want to pick 2 out of the 4 just to see where we're at.
American Fiction, and then it's Killers or Flowers for me. I don't know. Come back to me.
Wait, you said Killers or Flowers?
Oh, yes.
What do you mean?
He meant Moon.
Killers or Oppenheimer.
Okay, gotcha.
Or Oppenheimer. Laura?
For me, it's American Fiction and Poor Things.
Oh, man. I would go Killers or... I think any one of these, honestly, can make the list. But if I had to pick Killers and American Fiction, that's where I would go.
Okay, let's do that then. Just cut Oppenheimer because I'm the only one who mentioned that. So
Killers and...
I just am like, how do we cut Oppenheimer?
it's hard. I'm like, if Barbie's on the list, it's like Oppenheimer feels like it needs to be, but...
But they're like, once we separate
also,
them from the cultural like phenomenon that Barbenheimer was,
then I think Oppenheimer's a better movie than Barbie.
Yeah, of course. But like, yeah,
I know. I'm like,
but
I
we
would
shouldn't
pick it over Barbie.
I mean, I would not for sure.
I will just point out that 3 of us said Killers and 3 of us said American Fiction. So if we
that's
want
what I
to
was saying.
just
I was the only one
votes,
that said Oppenheimer. But again, if we are doing that, I would pick Oppenheimer over Barbie.
What are your thoughts on that, Alyssa?
Guys, I'm like, just like, I don't know if I could even have I don't know. I'm like, how do we have a top 5 list without Oppenheimer?
By putting the other movies on it, I
if
guess.
Oppenheimer ended up on the list over Killers for this list, I would be okay with that too, I guess.
But I think that the argument isn't against Killers, it's against Barbie.
I mean, like, we can argue about this all day. I feel
it was your number one.
I would feel very weird if Barbie didn't make our top movies of 2023. Like that movie, I think that just surpasses all. It just like the cultural phenomenon alone. And I know it's not,
said separated from the cultural phenomenon.
I know.
But I don't think we should. I don't think we should separate, because I think Barbie got audiences to theaters in a way that Oppenheimer wouldn't have. But
absolutely. I think for sure.
For me, I saw Oppenheimer because I was seeing Barbie. Like otherwise I would have just watched it on streaming. And I mean I really enjoyed it. And I do think, like, if we're talking about awards, maybe it is the most impressive movie of the year. But when we were talking at the beginning of the podcast about like the movies that we're most passionate about, like Tuong, you were super passionate about Barbie. It was one of my 3 like movies that I wanted to nominate. It just like had, I'm not saying that it's like objectively the best movie of the year, but I think it was one of the most impactful movies that we've seen in many years.
It's definitely one of the most impactful.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I mean, I don't know if I need to get into the Barbie discussion now, unless we're really seriously considering cutting it for a movie. Then I will get into it. But are we there? Or are we trying to cut Barbie? Is that what you two are trying to do?
I think so. Here's the thing.
I'm trying.
So
I just don't see how we have a list without Oppenheimer.
But I feel like, is that an obligation because of like the awards that have come?
I don't give a shit about awards. I just need to like say that.
I also don't know if I agree. I just don't know if I agree in general that Barbie, like Oppenheimer, has to be on the list because Barbie is on the list. Because I know they came out on the same day, and yes, they did ride the same wave of popularity for that moment in time. But I mean, when we're just talking about the movies, I don't know. I don't know if I need to.
That's the thing. It's like if you go to just about the movies, then my position is clear. It's Oppenheimer over Barbie.
Yeah, and if we're just going on the movies alone too, I would still take Barbie over an Oppenheimer.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think I just keep going to how I felt number 1 at the bomb test and number 2 when he announces that like the bomb was successful, and nothing else made me feel like that.
But Alyssa, think about when Ryan Gosling sang "Push" on the beach. Come on.
Why, when all the other it pans out and all you see all the other Kens with their guitars?
Oh my God, I felt something that I have not felt in a long time.
My Barbie
thrill.
cry moment was when she told the older woman she was beautiful. That
The
was
Rhea
my
Perlman,
gosh.
the Rhea Perlman scene for
Well,
me
that
is
wasn't-
like that was the emotional one for
That
me.
was a separate one, yeah.
It's a different.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. She
but
meant
yeah,
that.
the Rhea
Yes, I meant
Perlman
that.
stuff was amazing.
My thing with Barbie is like I feel like when I had an expectation for Barbie, I went in and I was like, yes, that was everything I expected to get from that movie based on the trailers, and I was like, cool. And I haven't thought about it since.
Oh, I think about
Versus,
it
like,
all the time.
With like Oppenheimer, I was like, dude, I don't know. Was like, is this going to be like an Inglourious Bastards where like the nuke does light the world on fire? I don't really know. And like I said, I've just been thinking about how that movie was made for so long afterwards.
Can we look at the collection of movies as a whole and say like maybe it'll be clear to us like whether one of them is like, oh, this complements the list really well, or like this feels like we're lacking something? Because what have we got?
We have Barbie, Holdovers, Past Lives.
So Holdovers, Past Lives, American Fiction, I think we landed on, Killers of the Flower Moon. So those are the four.
Wait, what?
So I think we've kind of figured out that we're going to go with Past Lives, Holdovers, American Fiction, and Killers of the Flower Moon. I feel like we're talking Oppenheimer and Barbie right now. Is that...
Hang on, back up for a second. What I have is locked right now is Barbie, Holdovers, and Past Lives. Those are the three, and then we're gonna get two. But we will talk about Barbie just in case we move one off the list. But that's where I'm at right now. Like we're just kind of figuring out what the other two movies are, and if Barbie gets off the list. But I mean, if we are gonna get into that now, I can certainly get into that now.
Okay, I think what we did was we all said our two movies. We determined that American Fiction and Killers of the Flower Moon each had 3 votes. And so we're like, those are probably the two we should add. But then it's like come up that like maybe because locks aren't necessarily locks. Mm-hmm. If Barbie was on the list, then Oppenheimer should be on the list is what was put forward. So
Yes.
we're talking about like, okay, well, if Barbie's...
Yeah.
Maybe Oppenheimer should be there instead
I
of
guess
Barbie.
like my whole point was like I just don't think the argument of if we're just basing Oppenheimer on being a good movie, for sure. If you guys are like Oppenheimer is one of your favorite of the year, which I mean like obviously it is a fantastic movie, just on that merit alone, then it should be on the list. So I just don't agree with the whole point of if Barbie's on the list, Oppenheimer should be on the list. Like that statement doesn't make sense to me.
I only said that because you're talking about the cultural impact.
Sure.
That's why I brought it up. Because Barbenheimer, that's why we're grouping those together.
Yeah. But like once we separate it, then we just talk about the movies on their own merits. And obviously we both like those two movies for different reasons. Let me start with this. Is Poor Things not making the list then?
I think I was the only one who had it in my top 2.
I liked
Of the
it,
remaining
but
four.
I think I'm with Alyssa. It doesn't, actually, I don't really think about that movie anymore either, to be honest with you. But I did enjoy it for what it was and its quirks and its creativity and all that stuff. I just, there was just stronger stuff in my mind this year.
Yeah, I would just suggest watching it immediately after Ferrari.
Fair enough.
So that puts us down to 3 movies for 2
Yeah.
spots.
So we're cutting Poor Things. Let's do that then. Okay.
Pour one out for Poor Things.
Nice. And also, just to end on Poor Things, I just love Ruffalo's mustache in that
So
movie.
good.
It's just so.
He was such a little shit, and
Yeah.
I thought he was amazing. He
know.
was just like, as soon as he spoke, he's like, "Man, what do we do?" And I was like, "Oh, it's one of these." Okay,
It sounds like an accent Tongue would make up.
Yeah. It's totally. I don't know how to do it. Like Taylor just did better than me, but I just like to and just like twirling the mustache as you're doing it, and just so offended by everything. Oh, so good.
What do you say that one line where he's just like, "I did it from the heart. It was a romantic jape, you cunt." It's like, oh my god.
Okay. So then it's Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and American Fiction
Yeah.
are the 3, and we need 2, and then maybe we'll have a discussion on Barbie too. But I think at this point, let's just figure out like, I think Oppenheimer's having, as much as we say Killers of the Flower Moon, I'm feeling a lot of like, we should have Oppenheimer on this list now. From the maybe act of cutting it seemed to have got a lot of people to pause about that. What do you think, Alyssa?
What do you guys think between those 2 movies?
Oh, Killers of the Flower Moon for sure.
Killers
That's
for
how
me.
I feel about. Like that's easy for me. But I mean, like maybe there is room for both of them. And then what? We cut American Fiction, but then we talk about Barbie too. Oh, there's so much to talk about.
I feel dirty.
I know.
I know.
You know what? I'm gonna go pee about this. I'll be back.
Me too.
Are you actually?
You
Oh yeah.
Oh wait. Oh my God. Really? Okay. This is okay.
Break?
Top five.
All right. That was an unexpected pee break from everyone.
I feel great though.
You feel good? So I don't know if that break helped clear your mind a little bit, Taylor and Laura, but did you think about anything while you were peeing?
I was thinking about our list.
Oh, wow.
I was
And
thinking
what did you
about
think?
past lives and the holdovers and the movies, because those are locks. Those are locks, I think.
Yeah.
The movies that would look nice beside them. And I still have a hard time seeing both Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon on the list.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's where I'm at.
Taylor, what did you think about?
I feel like someone else should choose, and I'll agree. And just
I'm kind of
and
the
I'll
same way.
say I'm okay with only one of them making, but both of them made my personal top five.
That's fine.
exactly what I was going to say. It's like, I think these are two of the best movies of the year, top 5 worthy, but you guys choose between Oppenheimer and Killers.
And we all have our own personal lists and stuff, and we will be like posting those lists or versions of those lists on the website at podcavern.com, so check all that out, because my top 5 is very different than what's on here too.
Well, if somebody's got to choose, I'm bringing back everybody's favorite zombie movie, Bottoms.
Oh yeah, what did you mean
Explain
by that?
that.
But we're not
We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
I will explain it later, though.
Does it involve a big explanation, or can you just say it now?
No, it's just a feeling.
Just say it now.
Okay, so like it's a movie in which authority doesn't exist, and so young people are put in charge of their own destinies, and in order to survive, they need to turn to violence. And these two sort of like unexpected leaders find themselves in a place of power and leadership in a way that like would never happen in the real world. It's only because people thought they went to juvie and thought they beat up this guy. Like it's these really unpredictable circumstances. But because they're in a circumstance where like whatever Huntington High School or something is they're all afraid that the students there are gonna try and kill them or attack them or whatever. They're like just trying to survive. So they turn to the people who are talking the loudest, which is Rachel Sennett's character, PJ, and the football players are completely useless, much in the way that like people who try and take charge in these situations or who we like initially turn to in these situations turn out to be useless because they just have like giant shoulder pads and tight pants, but there's nothing but below the surface. And that's it. That's it for me. Zombie movie.
Coming to my
Zombies.
TikTok.
I like it.
Back to business.
Back to business. American Fiction, thumbs up then? I feel like we had the least pushback.
I really
on
like
that.
it on our list. I really like it on our list.
Is there a
I
butt
like it
coming?
too.
Is there a butt
I like
coming?
having a fun comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Then let's lock that.
And I'm okay to cut poor things also.
Okay. All right. So if we have the locks as it is, and of course they're not binding, so let's just take it with that. But it's Barbie, Holdovers, American Fiction, Oppenheimer, and Past Lives. That's 4. And then when we Barbie,
Wait.
Holdovers.
No,
not Oppenheimer. Barbie,
we're down
Holdovers.
to you guys choosing between Killers and Oppenheimer.
Yes, for sure. I'm just reminding the people at home what we have locked here.
Don't forget the people at home. Hey,
Never
guys.
will.
Who? Wait, people listen to this?
Barbie, Holdovers, American Fiction, and Past Lives. And it's Oppenheimer versus Killers of the Flower Moon. And like I keep pushing for like I don't need both of these on this list, and that's what Laura said too. But I just want to make sure from your perspective, Taylor and Alyssa, do you care about that having both on the list, or?
I think it's fine to choose one. I truly love both of them, so I feel like I'm okay with whichever one makes the list.
Yeah, I'm not going to Sophie's Choice this. I'm putting the gun in your hands. I feel like we know where we stand on it, so just put one of them out of their misery. And I think you guys actually already both said
I think we
Killers over
agree
Oppenheimer,
on
so.
our favorite of the two.
You're looking at me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as soon as I say it and establish our top 5, I'm then gonna share my problem with Killers of the Flower Moon.
Do you want to say it now, or is it?
Well,
Sure.
yeah.
Doesn't that like?
Are you
Okay.
game in the system?
I'm gonna get torn apart for this, but guys, I think that Leo was the wrong choice.
Oh.
This is my issue, is that I feel like the character that he's playing is so naive that you either have to be like an unknown actor who can play naivety in a way that we can believe because we haven't seen them like established in other roles, or a young actor because youth are naive and that's believable. But Leo, to me, as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, I see Leonardo doing an amazing job portraying an ignorant guy who just like doesn't realize the circumstances in which he's found himself. And he's such a good actor that he does the job very well. But the whole time I'm just like, but it's Leonardo DiCaprio. I know that he knows what he's doing right now. And that just took a little bit out of the movie for me.
Okay, so it's funny you say that because one of my takeaways from the movie was I never thought once that was like about that being like Leonardo DiCaprio. But
It's the
I
teeth.
was so bought in.
He's tooth acting.
away.
Whatever's happening with his mouth, yeah.
He's got fake teeth.
That was it, eh?
Yeah. So maybe that's just personal.
No, I thought he was great. He didn't inspire confidence once in me. And I was like, this guy's fucking off.
Yeah, I'm super biased with Leo. Honestly,
Yeah, I know.
every time I see him, I'm just like, look at him do his thing. He's a master at acting and stuff like that. But he even get like any award noms this year, which again goes to show how crazy this year has been.
Just
for
not
movies.
Oscar noms, but he was nominated for other stuff.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. But did you feel like that character was meant to be younger?
Well, the person is younger in real life.
Okay.
Like he is too old to play the character. I personally didn't have a problem with that. And
Because he's such a good actor.
Again, too, this like kind of made me relook at how I view like people who are like basically the victims versus the people who are doing the actions. Because I kept trying to make excuses for him.
Mm-hmm.
I kept being like, oh, maybe he doesn't really know what he's doing. Like
he's a piece of
I
shit.
bought that. I know. And then it made me be like, why am I putting his feelings and his future ahead of like these people who are having like to me it really made me kind of like re-examine who I sympathize with,
Our own biases.
so Leo got that message across to me for sure. And to me it didn't feel like it was because it was Leo. I was really like dialed into that character.
It's more believable than De Niro playing a 20-year-old version of himself in The Irishman.
I was just thinking that in terms of like
No, I didn't take issue with that.
He's 20-something, but he's
also,
running like an 80-year-old right now.
People aged hard and fast back in the days.
Yeah, they had a shorter life
Top that on top of it.
Yeah, they didn't have
That's
the
not
elixirs
true,
like
actually. It's just like more infants died. People live to like 60, 70 years old, but so many like babies and infants died. So that brings the life expectancy down to like 30, 40. People didn't actually live till 40.
Right, but were they more mature along in life, I guess? Like a 30-year-old back in the day would act more like a 50-year-old
walk
kind
through
of thing?
high school, you look at like the graduating class of 1984, and you're like, these guys are all like 40.
How do they have beards?
They all have full, exactly. The mustaches are luscious.
Yeah.
Like,
I just think that if they had got a really incredible young unknown actor into that role, that could have been something special.
Right, sure. I think Lily Gladstone's amazing in Killers of the Flower Moon, but I also wish she got to do more than be sick for a lot of the film. And I mean, like, that's like her arc and her story and stuff, but you just feel like it's already a bad situation. Her character goes through some shit. Her whole, like, everyone is going through some shit, but her character specifically is literally sick for most of the movie. And I wish we got to see more of her.
she seemed like such a
powerful
cool
actress. Yeah.
Like, she seems so cool, and like she projects such confidence that I'm like, not in this movie, I guess, unfortunately, but I'm like, I want to see her in something. I want to see her in something like Widows, if you ever saw that movie. Like, she's gonna kill. Like,
Reservation Dogs.
Can't wait.
She's in that too, right? So she like
Which season?
2.
I don't remember.
In 2.
In one episode.
Yeah. They visit
Okay.
her in jail or something like that, right?
I think she's the main character's aunt or something.
Yeah.
Auntie. Yeah. That's,
All right.
I think that could be on the list, though. Even.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's just easier if we just
commit to one of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what we got. We have Barbie, Holdovers, American Fiction, Past Lives, and Killers of the Flower Moon. That's our 5. Oh man, we got to 5. That's and how do we feel about that? Are we feeling kind of gross? Are we feeling good?
I'd watch this list of movies all day, except like Killers of the Flower Moon. I wouldn't watch it all day. But like maybe once more.
It'd take you most of the day to watch it. No. All right, let's start ranking these things for real. Number 5. What's number 5? And obviously, we can talk more about this. I think the Barbie conversation is about to happen, anyways, to see where it is on our list. But Alyssa and Taylor, I'm curious for you. Is Barbie at number 5 for you, if anything? Is that where it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Barbie's at number 5 for me.
Okay. And Laura, where are you with Barbie?
I mean, Barbie would, based on this list of movies, it would probably come in at 3 for me, but I can understand putting it in 5th place, weighing out all of our options and everyone's preferences.
Yeah, I would put it at probably 3 personally. With this group of people, probably 3. I have a.
But it was your number 1.
It was my number 1 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that some more now because maybe I can move it up a spot or two. But like, again, I think Greta's style of acting and what she can get out of her cast is quite incredible. And I think like a movie like Barbie could have failed spectacularly, right? Like the way it was presented and the way that people are like, oh, a Barbie's movie coming out, and everyone kind of like putting up their nose being like, oh, what the fuck is this thing going to be? And the fact that it was, for me, it defied the expectation of what a Barbie movie could be. Like I really thought, and like not putting like even America Ferrera's speech to the side for a second, because I think that speech is like very powerful and it's talked a lot about right now and it's being celebrated, which I think it should. But like I got more out of it than I thought I would, and it was just such a nice surprise, and it not only met the hype for me, but it surpassed the hype for me, and that's kind of my feelings of where I landed with the movie. Is I continuously think about it, and I continuously think about the impact it had on movies in general right now, but like on the people who watched it, because like everybody saw Barbie, everyone came to the theaters to celebrate this thing, everybody was so prepared to love movies again, and they did. And like I got the I Am Knuff sweater, people know what that is, and it's just such a fun, vibrant thing. And I keep going back to Lego Movie because it reminds me of that era of just like, here's a movie
it's
that
very similar structurally to the Lego Movie.
I mean, it
like,
does have Will Ferrell as like the president of
whenever the
company.
character goes from their like plastic place to the real world and Will Ferrell's there, it's like weird similarities
A little
there.
too on the nose.
Yeah. And I just thought it was delightfully funny. I really think that you could fuck up a movie like this. And like,
it was going to be an Amy Schumer movie where it was like fat Barbie. I'm doing air quotes here.
Yeah.
That's a nightmare.
That was in the development for a while. So
Exactly.
we dodged that bullet.
but to like kind of weave itself in and out of being like a comedy, something fresh, something new, with like a lot of genuine heartfelt moments that I felt, is just an incredible thing. And I mean, like, it always feels weird talking about Gosling in a Barbie movie as like one of the highlights, but it is like,
I don't think so. I feel like people have gotten flack for that, but oftentimes the supporting role is where you can shine more because you're not carrying a movie, you have less scenes. Think of like Melissa McCarthy in Bridesmaids. Think of Tiffany Haddish in Girls Trip. And that's the Gosling role in this. They excel and they really, really shine. And I don't think it's like by nature because it's a guy. No, he had the most fun role.
It's like, it's not his fault that he got like the funniest lines and kind of like the best stuff to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a big part of that discourse is people being a little bit ignorant of the fact that like he wasn't in the same category as Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig. Like, it's not like he was nominated over them, right? And he had so much fun in this role, and as audiences, like, we had so much fun watching him. And obviously, I'm Just Ken was a highlight, but I will still advocate for the fact that him singing Push by Matchbox 20 on the beach
that was funny
for me, like the highlight of the movie. I've listened to it on repeat.
The songs that came out of Barbie, there's like three of them.
Well, that was just a cover of an existing song.
No, I know,
right?
but like, besides Push Aside, it's like the Dua Lipa song. We have I'm Just Ken, and there was another one too. Oh, Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish, I mean, for.
Like, it's crazy. And I mean, I'm just a sucker for like, singing and dancing in movies too. If it's put in, like, the whole movie is not a musical by no means, but like the way that they just lean into that like really cheesy factor without getting cringe, at least for me, it's just a wonderful thing. Cameos from like Kate McKinnon. Well, I guess she's more than a cameo.
Yeah.
Like, she was great. Michael Cera, I thought was hilarious in it. Actually, Simu Liu was like, he was there. Okay. He was just there. Yeah. I love that guy. I talk about how much I love that guy, but he's just kind of there. But they did have one of my favorite dance moves, which I can't even like describe how it is. I'll show Taylor and Alyssa later.
I already know. You took a picture of yourself doing it.
I fucking love it. Yeah, I think it just blew expectations out the door, and it's just a movie to me that is like, I can watch that movie again and again for quite a long time, because I just think it had something fresh to show me in movies that I have not seen before. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But with that said, I mean, I would still fight for it to at least be not number 5, but I guess I won't stomp my feet at it because I have my own personal list. So,
well, I also am just like, okay, what would you put if it was at number 3, let's say, what would you put at the 4 and 5?
I would put Killers of the Flower Moon and American Fiction.
Oh, so you're a racist.
Yeah.
Famously.
Yeah. The one minority in this group.
Hey, you're not Osage or black.
That's true.
So, Tuong, I feel like maybe we could fight for Barbie 4 with Killers 5, but I think with this group I would put
And I would not stop my feet at that either. I think, yeah.
But where does Killers of the Flower Moon land for the two of you? Because Alyssa, I know you loved it.
Yeah, I would
4
almost swap those and put, if Barbie was at 4, I might put American Fiction at 5 and Killers at 3. But also, I'm not mad at Killers at 5 and American at 3.
Taylor, if you had to choose just for your own personal list, what would you choose?
That sounds fine. I'm good with that.
American Fiction 5.
No, 3.
Is that what we said?
Wait, no, sorry. Killers
Alyssa,
of
that's what-
Alyssa said she'd be willing to swap.
Oh, I thought I'm getting all confused now.
Yeah.
So what did
So
we
say
say
again?
So Killers 5, Barbie 4.
Killers 5, American Fiction 3.
Yes.
Barbie
Okay.
four.
Yeah. And then it's Past Lives and The Holdovers, and I know my number one. So what do you guys think?
Is it?
Mine, I think it's Holdovers for me
Your number one?
on this
Past
list.
Lives.
Oh,
I'm Past Lives
The
number one.
I gotta give it to
second,
Past
like,
Lives.
5 minutes into Past Lives, I was like, we got a contender, and like, oh my
This
god,
is what I want to talk about
This
in
is-
Past Lives.
We got to talk more.
we got it. That's
At
my
the
number one with
end-
a bullet.
At the end of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
when she's walking him to the Uber,
And they stand there.
and we see them walk on the screen from right to left as she walks into the past. They have the moment, and then she walks from left to right back to her present into her future. That's best movie of the year.
It just breaks down. I'm sorry, right?
And when
Oh
she
my
breaks
God.
down, because I think, I don't know if it was the same for you, but for me, that was the moment where I was like, oh, he's not like her. He's not her person in this life. Like, she might be his person in this life, but he's not hers. This guy is.
And they talk about that too, right? What's the terminology that they use?
I can't remember.
Inyan.
Inyan? Yeah.
Okay.
It's like maybe in a different life we'd be the Inyan for each other, but it's not this one. Something like that.
And then it honestly might be one of my favorite last lines ever in a movie when he says, again, like, maybe we'll be together in the next life or whatever. And then he says, see you then. What a line.
Because he was ready for it now.
God.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful. And like Laura earlier talking about like the kind of smaller movies, to me, it's like they're just like so intimate and personal to me. It's just like they're so like, God, like I'm peeking in on these people's lives. Like it feels very private.
Which is how the movie opens, right?
Yeah.
We're eavesdropping on their conversation.
Right.
Oh yes, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like other people
Other
are like,
people are trying to guess their
you think
relationship.
They're together, or that's their brother and sister, or like that type of thing. Yeah,
And you think about like in a lesser movie, or maybe if this was like the rom-com version of this movie, the whole movie would be about like which guy is she going to choose, and like maybe she would end up with him. But I was listening to an interview with the director, and she said at the end of the movie, she isn't even necessarily choosing a man. She's just choosing the version of her life that she wants to live, like for herself. And I found it really interesting when her and her husband are having the conversation, and he's kind of like, how can I compete with this guy? The story is so amazing. She doesn't come back and say like, oh no, like I love you so much more. She says, my life is in New York, and this is the life that I want to be. I would never miss my rehearsals. I'm like, wow, like it's just different from anything I've ever seen. It's not her being like, no, honey, like I love you more. She's like, no, I love my life more.
yeah.
It's like they both know the score and they're just like swallowing that bitter pill and they're like, well, like if I want this is the best version of it I'm going to get. Like I'm never going to be that person for you, but I'm me. And it just like the very end scene that you're talking about, it's like when Laura maybe mentioned when they're looking at each other, that moment, it just goes on for like an eternity. It feels like
They don't even talk.
in
yeah.
your head,
They're just,
in your head,
yeah.
but you're like you're just like, you have that inner turmoil with yourself because you're like, kiss, but you're like,
you're
no,
like,
but
are they moving closer
don't
together?
Kiss. Yeah, but then you're like, you want to kiss, but then it's like, no, but we can't. And then you're just like, I don't know. Like, do they make it's like they should have kissed and it would have been a good like ending to this movie, but then immediately she's gonna walk back here and that would have been like, it would have ruined her life. Like it's just, there's no right answer. And it's just
And I loved, you go ahead.
No, it was just so painful to watch because it's like we missed it. We missed the boat. Like it's just like
their lives went on different trajectories. And that's and that's why I thought this movie was very mature the way they handle that love story is because it's very realistic, right? Like you don't if we were in this position, if you're put in a position where you reconnect with a man, they weren't even like actual like girlfriend, boyfriend. No. They were kids, right? And they have that connection from when they were kids that just happened to like resurface a little bit and getting to know each other after 10 years or whatever it was. And then they had to like put that on pause and then another 10 years passes and stuff like that. I just think, yeah, it just doesn't end the way that most romantic movies do. And it's better for it.
I was just going to say, I love that neither of the guys were like a bad option. It's like, I feel like in these movies, there's always an obvious choice of what you should make. But in this one, it was like, there is no right or wrong choice. There's just the choice you make. And is that not the most relatable thing of all time?
I read a review that described it as a love triangle, and it made me so mad because I was like, you're diminishing this movie so much. Like, it's so much more than that. It's not about like the man she's choosing. Like Taylor said, it's about the life she's choosing. And it's just so much bigger while also being like so small. And it feels very much like a play as well. Yeah. That's something I loved about it.
Yeah.
Her husband, at first, like, I'm like, I don't like this guy because I'm supposed to like the other guy, you know, like, and like, even like he says some things that are like, oh, the other guy would never, you know what I mean? Like this other guy that back from home, like she should be with him because of these reasons. But this guy, like, I think if you put yourself in this guy's shoes, I think he acting exactly as mature as someone can be in that situation where you're like, oh, so you're going to hang out with this guy again? Okay, well, maybe he should come over for dinner. Oh, you're hanging out again? Oh, this is strange. Oh, now you're speaking in a language that I don't understand, and it's clearly very important to you, and I've been trying to, like, connect with you in this way, but I feel like I can't because I wasn't born with that language. There's like all these things that like I started like empathizing with the husband character because I'm like, oh no, that's exactly how someone would act. And he's honestly doing the best he can in a situation that's incredibly difficult. Like it's hard, right?
Total cuck. Yeah. It is tough though. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever done like, say, long distance relationships or something like that.
2.5
like,
years over here.
Well, there you go. But it's just like, I find in those oftentimes, whenever you do see each other, it's always the honeymoon phase, right? Because you're like, we have a weekend, maybe a week if we're lucky, but you don't really know. So even with like, oh, she chooses her like the person her soul's entwined with, and they get together, and it's like, oh, we actually don't like we started living together, and this is horrible. Like that you don't even know, and it's like, would it be bad? You just don't know, and like that ambiguity and that regret, it's real. But like it's really tough. Or like somebody it's like, we would have been great together. I was like, yeah, we would have, but here we are.
But that's how you do the dishes, really? Yeah.
Really?
Last thing I'll say about that movie is the line that sticks out to me was that when she's explaining to him, or she's telling him, talking to him at the bar or whatever, she's like, that girl that you liked or loved back then, she did exist. We left her in Korea, but I'm someone different now. So is basically saying your feelings are valid, but I'm not that person anymore. I felt like it's very true, very real. Yeah.
I saw a clip on Twitter the other day that was a line. I think she asked him something like, why did you look for me? And just watching her face while she waits for his answer, I'm like, damn it. Like, I can't believe she wasn't nominated for this performance. And also shout out to Celine Song because this is her directorial debut.
Insane.
Amazing.
Alyssa and I discussed that. It's like, that should not be allowed.
Yeah. Incredible.
It's insane. Stuff. And also that she wrote the script. And I'm like, the screenplay's incredible because it sounds like things normal people would say, but then there's lines that are so good that they just like get you right in the gut. I'm like, who is this woman and how is she the most talented person on earth?
All right. Well, I think we have our list. I'm actually really happy the way it ended. Like, just it's very... I don't think a lot of people would have had Past Lives as their number one, and I think it's pretty amazing that it is.
They're all wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would have been happy with either 1 or 2 for like The Holdovers as Past Lives. I like The Holdovers. That's a movie I'm going to see.
I'm the only one that spoke about Holdovers.
We should talk about
that one for a sec.
I said it was cozy.
Yeah, you did.
That's my contribution.
I also love the soundtrack of that movie. The last song that plays, it's called like Cry. Do you guys know that song? It's called like Crying, Laughing, Love. I've listened to that song every day since I've watched the movie.
Oh, cute.
Can't tell you the title, but so good. Everyone listen to it. It's amazing. And it makes you feel like you're in the movie, kind of.
I mean, I think we already mentioned it in some way or fashion. Taylor, you spoke about it probably the best, but I love the visual style of the movie. I love the editing of the movie. I love the vibes. I love the music. I just think the story's completely watchable, and yet it's not. I mean, yeah, it is cozy, but they do deal with some stuff that is quite heavy. All of Davine's stuff is like crazy. Like, oh my God,
So
she's trying
heavy.
to come to grips with her son who died, and going through this grieving phase as well. And then like all of the stuff with Angus, the main character, him and his father, which like you find out, you're like, okay, what's the relationship here? His mom is with another man right now, and he was not supposed to stay over for the Christmas break at the school, but he has to because his mom's going off with this other dude somewhere else, and that's the only time they can make it work. So he gets fucked over, and he misses his life because he misses his dad. And there's a whole thing where it's like, yeah, my dad died, which you're like, oh shit, his dad died, but it's way more complex. His dad is like at a mental institution, so the version of his dad that he knew is gone, and that whole interaction that happens when those two meet with each other is fucking heartbreaking. So when you have Paul Giamatti, this curmudgeon who comes in, who's so hard on students, and I love like when like really hard characters start to like unravel a little bit and be like, you know what, this kid has a lot of potential. And like, obviously it's a little tropey in that way, but it fucking works for me. Mm-hmm. So when Paul Giamatti like gives up his job for the hopes of this kid's future. So, and then like Paul Giamatti also, he's more than that too. He has this whole he has this whole thing that he wants to write a book, but he's stuck at this one place that he owes his life to. And so there's a lot of things that work about this movie. I think it's just one of the most, not only just watchable, but there's just a lot of meat to this movie than you'd expect. Mm-hmm. And it's wonderful that people deem it as a Christmas movie. I would also deem it as a Christmas movie, and I'm going to watch it every Christmas now.
I don't think I'll put it on my Christmas list, but I would watch it again, and I appreciate that it's set at Christmas because of the cozy factor. I love the performances here. I loved the music, as Alyssa mentioned. I loved most of all the way it really felt of a certain time, because I think a lot of times when directors attempt that these days, it's almost like a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, like it's a 2020s take on the 1980s or something like that, whereas this one really felt like he was trying to establish a really authentic sense of, was it the 70s?
Yeah, 1970.
Yeah, it was 1970.
This movie could have been made in the 70s, and I would believe it.
But at the same time, it's a story that could have taken place in any time, really. But the fact that he chose to put it in this time was a really fun stylistic choice. And this was one that I was really looking forward to going in as well. It just felt like the type of movie that I would enjoy. And indeed, I did.
Also, the other holdovers, those other kids, really fun.
Kids, yeah.
All very fun in their own little way. One of them is like obviously a big piece of shit, but I mean, he does it really well.
The one that Angus kind of mentors is really sweet.
Yeah.
Mom, look at the peas in the bed.
Yeah, that's really sweet.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also just worth noting that like Alexander Payne and Paul Giamatti reuniting, because Payne did Sideways.
Yeah.
The like Thomas Hayden Church Giamatti wine movie, like 2004.
20 years ago. Amazing.
Yeah. Just like, one of Giamatti's most iconic roles.
Yeah.
That's when he got on my radar. I was like, this
Hell
guy,
yeah.
he's interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Guys, didn't you watch Big Fat Liar as kids?
That's what I know him from. The blue guy with the red hair.
I think I saw it. Was that with Hilary Duff?
Treat yourself.
No, Amanda Bynes.
So sorry.
And
But Frankie Muniz,
Muniz.
right? Okay, he was in a different movie with
They
Hilary
were in
Duff,
Agent
though,
Cody
right?
Banks with
Okay,
Hilary
thank you.
Duff.
Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate
All
it.
right. My grammar was fucked, but
Nobody knew.
The cult classic Agent Cody Banks. I haven't thought about that movie in ages.
You're a My Dog Skip guy, huh?
All right, number 5, we have Killers of the Flower Moon. Number 4, Barbie. Number 3, American Fiction. Number 2, The Holdovers. And number 1, Past Lives. Holy shit, everyone. That's our best movies of 2023. And we'll just do a quick round of honorable mentions right now. We'll go with, Alyssa.
I'm like, I have a list written down.
Yeah, do you want to say some honorable mentions here?
You Hurt My Feelings was one of my favorite movies of the year. Nicole Holofcener is one of my favorite writer-directors. I love that movie. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, very funny. Iron Claw, I think we're in the age of the F-Renaissance. That movie was very for me.
Are we calling it that right now?
I am.
I mean, it sounds good.
Absolutely. I quite enjoyed May, December, All of Us Strangers, If You Want to Cry, Anatomy of a Fall, Priscilla. Also a movie, Other People's Children. It's like a French language film about a woman in like her 40s, and it's kind of about like being a woman who doesn't have children. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that movie, but that was one of my favorites of the year. So those would be mine.
Okay. We'll go Taylor. Anything else that you want to shout out?
I watched 350 movies last year, so I don't have
Do you have like an Excel sheet for yourself, or
For
do you
your
use Letterboxd,
2024
or what do you do?
films?
I write down the movies if I watch them, but my 2023 movies I don't have. But just off the top of my head, I'm gonna shout out a couple like genre flicks. John Wick 4. Who would have thought those movies keep getting better? That was like the most fun I had. I was hooting and hollering in the cinema.
I watched that in very poor circumstance, so I did not enjoy it. We watched it at like a cottage with we had to watch it at very low volume because there's kids in the other room. So I'm like,
ideal.
I can't really hear the punches and kicks. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like,
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I was in the theater. I had long hair at the time and like a beard. It's the guy across the aisle from me looks over. He goes, "Hey, you kind of look like John Wick." I was like, thank you.
You karate chopped him in the neck.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, he had it coming. Interrupted my movie. Dungeons and Dragons. Honor
Very
Among Thieves.
fun.
Yeah, a lot
I
of fun.
think that's the most underrated movie of the year. Personally, it's so fun. It didn't do well at the box office, but it should have. It's like, I say to people, if you liked Pirates of the Caribbean, it's just like, it's a swashbuckling good time. It's so fun. It's a blast. You
Chris
don't
Pine.
need to play the game. All of them. They were incredible. It was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Then just like some horror. I'm a horror girl, so
Girly.
Evil Dead Rise. Hell yeah. Evil Dead Rise was fantastic. They did like the Cabin in the Woods, but they just changed it to an apartment building, and it was incredible.
Oh.
Talk to Me, Tuong. I know you liked that.
Loved it.
So good.
Loved it.
Good. When Evil Lurks is a good Argentine movie, I think. Fantastic. I don't know. Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, and How to Blow Up a Pipeline are a couple other ones I can remember really enjoying.
Cool. Laura.
Nice. I think I got a half dozen or so here. Little Mermaid, I'm going to give a shout out for being the best live action Disney musical remake so far. Cinderella and Jungle Book are also very good, but I did really, really enjoy it, although they forgot Eric's flute. They forgot Ariel's... He's a recorder, I'm so sorry. They forgot Ariel's sparkly dress at the end, and they did not show Triton's nipples, so those are the three misses for me. Dungeons and Dragons was mentioned. You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah was just like kind of along the lines of Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, like that time in your life and the drama that you have between your friends and your family and the things that are so important to you at the time. And so funny. So funny.
Really good.
Saltburn, I'm going to give a shout out for the performance of Rosamund Pike. I thought she was exceptional in that movie. Loved her. I did enjoy the movie, even though I didn't think it was like the greatest thing I've ever seen. But for all the attention that the bathtub scene got, I got to say the grave scene for me was a much
Way
bigger
worse.
deal. Whoa. And my last...
Put a penis in dirt.
Who among us?
Who am I? And the last movie I'll give a shout out to, another event movie that got butts and seats at the theater this year, although I wouldn't actually feel comfortable nominating it because to me it's like, it's not a movie, it's a recording of a concert, and it is Taylor Swift's Eras Tour.
Yeah.
It's coming to Disney Plus.
Reputation set, crazy.
That was also one of the craziest movie-going experiences that I've ever been to.
I turned into a whole other person.
And
I
I've
don't know
seen
what happened in
Endgame,
there.
too. Yeah, it was fucking crazy.
I don't know what happened in there.
People were
I
singing
blacked out. What happened?
in the theater and holding up their lights for a screen where Taylor could not see them.
Yeah, but Marjorie could.
I guess.
Come on.
Guys, at my screening, I went like pretty late. It was like one of the last showings, and there was all these little girls doing cartwheels at the front of
I wish
theater.
we'd had more of that, to be honest. We went on opening night and it was a little bit like tame.
I wouldn't say it was tame. There were people screaming their hearts out and just singing at the screen, which you don't see at the movie theaters.
Yeah, but you didn't
ever.
ask me to sit down at any point.
I would never, yeah. I want you to enjoy yourself.
Alyssa, as someone who grew up in the 90s and did a bunch of lip syncs to Backstreet Boys, which was exclusively just doing cartwheels the whole time, I respect the game of those going away.
100%. I honestly, at one point, I was like, the girls are stealing the show.
Yeah. I also just love that, like, especially through the Taylor Sons or whatever. Like she's just so high profile right now that these kids growing up, like she belongs to them. Meanwhile, we're like, but she was ours first, but like she belongs to them just as much as she ever belonged to us. And I think that's great.
All right. I'm going to give my top 10 ordered right now that I wrote today. So we'll see if that changes by the time I post this. But as of this recording, this is my top 10 of 2023. Number 10, Blackberry. Number 9, Killers of the Flower Moon. Number 8, The Iron Claw. Number 7.
I thought it was mid.
Well, you're not in your Efron Renaissance yet, so.
No, he was amazing. The second half of the movie, I was really bored, and I just kept thinking, The Wrestler was a really good movie.
That is a good movie. Very different, though. Is it? I don't know.
What about that scene in the afterlife where he hugs the little kid?
It's so...
Yo, that broke
Oh,
it.
boy. Yeah, that got me.
It was like, that's narratively structural. It was like that.
I was
okay,
so
we're doing
here
dreams
for it.
now? Okay.
After I've been using the Iron Claw on everyone every time I meet
I've been
them.
doing that since Liar Liar. But
Yeah. Just how I greet people. High five. No, Iron Claw to the face. 7 is Past Lives for me. Number 6, Anatomy of a Fall. Number 5, Across the Spider-Verse. Number 4, Boy and the Heron. Number 3, The Holdovers. 2, Godzilla -1. And number 1 is Barbie. Some other shout outs that I just want to give out. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I thought it was very fun. Kind of
Mutant Mayhem.
People kind of, I don't know, forgot about it, but I thought it was just, it's fun.
I was surprised.
that one excited. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was surprised it wasn't in contention anywhere for Best Animated Feature.
I know. I thought it was very fresh, and they did the Turtles the best in a long time.
It excited me more than Across the Spider-Verse, just because I had seen that style of animation before, and then Mutant Mayhem. I was like, ooh, this is new. So
Yeah, that's fair.
Transformers 2 doesn't have the same impact as like Transformers 1, because you're like, yeah, okay, I've seen this.
Yeah, fair enough. Across the Spider-Verse, they add so much more graphical flair than the first one. I just watched it again last night. But yes, you've seen that before in a way. And Nimona was the other animated feature that I just loved as well. All right, wow. That was our top 5 movies of 2023. I'm going to quickly just rattle off what we said last year. Number 5 of last year was Tar. Number 4 was Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Number 3 was The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 2, Top Gun Maverick. And number 1, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So
that was just last year.
I know.
That's crazy.
Oh my God, I thought I grew up with that movie.
I know. Oh, what a ride. What a ride. Okay, well, that's it for this year. I think, we'll still have at least one more episode of Top 5 Movies before we wrapped up with Ranked as a whole. So I'm excited. Maybe next year is our last year of ranking movies. So get ready, everyone. It's going to be a hell of a year, hopefully. Unless it's not. If it's not a good year for movies, we'll just keep doing it until there's a really
Top
good
5 movies ever.
And
it will go on for like
Oh my
13 hours.
I wouldn't have it any
And
other
Tuong
way.
will still bring Barbie to the table.
That's true.
All right. Does anyone have anything they want to plug before we go? Anything at all?
I'm going to stay on the topic of movies. I want to say the 3 movies that I haven't watched yet this year or from 2023 that I still want to check out are The Color Purple, Zone of Interest, and Origin. And the 2 movies that I'm most excited about for 2024, they're coming out on the same day. It's Wickana, my friends. Moana and Wicked. Moana 2 and Wicked are coming out on the same day, November 24th.
They're not calling it Wick.
Well, I just named it Wickana.
I just saw an article today that said The Rock and the main character. Yeah, they're not signed on for Moana 2 yet,
Apparently
which is
not.
weird.
Yeah, that is
What?
weird. Disney is scrambling right now. That is the main thing you should take away from it.
They have 5 movies in production, and they've only announced what one of them actually are, and it was Moana 2 announced last week. So it's looking a little messy for Disney right now, but
Disney is a messy little bitch that loves drama.
Alyssa Taylor, if you have anything plugged, great. And if you also want to add if there's any movies this year that you're looking forward to, I'd love to hear it.
I mean, if you want to know the movies that make me cry, that's what I chronicle on my letterboxd at Alyssa Wool.
can confirm it's great.
Thank you. I'm like, Laura, I'm very excited that you've joined the letterbox.
I'm new to the world, just finding my way.
I'm dialed into your account. I'm very excited.
No one-
in terms
no one
of
follows me.
movies coming this year, wait, do you have Letterboxd?
I just found out today.
I got it, but I'm using it as like a personal diary. It's mostly like a journal rather than like I'm afraid of people to see what I write in here because it's all freakish stuff. That's all I write.
Yeah,
in
I've
there.
seen your movie choices, more like a personal diarrhea.
My mind also went there.
As you all know, I'm a Mission Impossible girly, but Dead Reckoning Part 2, which is no longer called Part 2, got moved to next year. So I've got nothing to look forward to in 2024.
Wow. Okay. Taylor, you?
Wear sunscreen.
Yeah.
You know, it's helpful. Don't do nothing about white supremacy. Get vaccinated. Just be a good person.
These are all really good.
Cosign.
Yeah.
These are really good.
What a trilogy of advice.
For myself, you can find the rest of the shows in the Pod Cavern at www.podcavern.com. Check out all the shows there. Like, subscribe, review, whatever you want to do. Share the love of the Pod Cavern. Thanks again for listening to another episode of Ranked and our Movies of the Year podcast. And I think this group is going to go continue that Fight Club because we didn't find a winner yet. So whoever wins gets to have sex with me.
Put down the hammer, Tom.
God.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.